If you're constantly battling low energy, cravings, weight control, watching your health slip away, listen up. There's a simple daily protocol they don't want you to know about that's helping people ditch their meds and reclaim their health. Up to 88% of American inflammation. This isn't a trend, it's a transformation. Start today to reclaim your health with the Feel Great Protocol.
We never had it like we have it now. And Iran knows that, and they've been put on notice. If you around with us, if you do something bad to us, we are going to do things to you that have never been done before.
The 47th President of the United States is not a game player. When he tells you that he's going to do something, when he tells you he's going to address a problem, he means it. And now if you don't know, now you know.
The former regime had every chance to make a peaceful and sensible deal. But Tehran was not negotiating. This operation is a clear, decisive mission.
There is no way in the world that this terroristic regime was going to get nuclear weapons, not under Donald Trump's watch.
We never had it like we have it now. And Iran...
All right, one time. Only one time, Dad. How is it going out there, my fellow world patriots? It is indeed Tuesday, July 21st, 2026. And nice little cold open there from the White House putting out such information there. President Trump, he doesn't play games, as we hear. So, as you guys see on the screen here, the 47th President of the United States is not a game player. Learn to play the game. This is not a game. But very interesting post here. But of course, I got Mr. Ghost, Mr. Doc Mike, and Mr. Armando joining us on this fine Tuesday. And we're definitely going to give you guys a little different perspective on some of the things that have been going on here. But I definitely enjoyed that little cold open. But Mr. Ghost, sir, how is it going on this fine Tuesday? I hope you're feeling better than you have been in the previous few days. But how's it going in general?
It is going well. And yeah, the scare over the past few days is turning less and less to be a scare and won't be anything at all. So thank God for that. I always dodge those bullets, and I thank God every day for that. Otherwise, everything's going great, and yeah, glad to be here again for another. Let's have fun tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do Mr. Doc Mike, sir. How are you doing on this fine Tuesday, brother? I do appreciate you coming on with us, as well as, of course, all three of you. But how you doing today, brother?
Doing all right. Hanging in there. Just fighting with Big Pharma. Did not expect to fight with Big Pharma today. So it's a doozy, but it's going good. Trying to get the upper arm on Big Pharma on this. So, short story is they're trying to raise jack prices up on Renee's heart medications for stage or CHF heart failure. So for one of the medications, they wanted to charge us $4,000 for it, and we're just like, no, like there's just no way. There's no way. And going through the different, talking to the pharmacist, talking to the doctor, and moral of the story is apparently there's a shortage, and then on top of that, they want Renee to go through name brand top of the line meds from the cardiac office, and so that's what we were working on, and we'll continue to work on during the week.
It's also super pricey too. I mean, it's like,
Oh yeah.
It's so ridiculous too. And then you don't even get me started with like, oh, the doctors, they want to help people. No, they want their Mercedes and the BMWs. Like, start paying, doctors what you pay, a teacher. And we'll see how many people want to be doctors then. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's so ridiculous, the big pharma stuff, guys. And so, I will preempt this and just say, guys, thank you guys for anybody who has donated and prayed for Renee, because you guys know as well as we do, I liken, the health stuff, Mike, kind of like the military, right? Like, as far as I understand, everything on there was expensive too, like combs and stuff like that. So, but I mean, it's just ridiculous. I mean, $4,000, and I think you previously mentioned that's not the only one she has to take by a lot. Right. And so they need to make it more tolerable for people, especially people like that are in your position that have helped our country out tremendously over the years. It's just it is a sad situation that it's so damn expensive.
Yeah, it's insane. And, it just really makes me want to, I want to get up and do something about it and take this, I know Big Pharma is big, but, at least, to us people that are struggling, if they're, if Renee didn't take her medication, that she wouldn't be alive. And no one on this, no one in our country or, on the planet deserves, to be price gouged or raped for money to survive on medication. It's unfair, and it's, and I'm going to take this to the next level. And, I'm not just going to, talk about it and not do anything. I'm going to do something about it, because, this is unethical. This isn't right. And I know a few congressmen and senators, and I'm going to make those phone calls. So that's going to happen. But overall, doing okay. It is stressful, but yeah,
Can we start by taking Fauci out and beating him with carbon fiber knuckles?
I don't. Since Fauci's in a position where he's been pardoned, I think that makes all of the information pardoned, or all the documents and information that were sent through medical intelligence to him. So if he's pardoned, I'm just and this is a theory and imagination here, is that I think those documents, I think I could share all that information now.
Oh,
so I think you could too. And you know what? They don't apply to the jurisdiction of the republic either.
So I mean, if you want to come after my wife, then I'm more than happy to share, unclassified, secure information or unsecured information. You guys get what I'm saying. But yeah, awesome. So yeah, I'll be more than happy to.
Hell yeah. Mr. Armando, sir. Mr. Armando Gonzalez of Truth Table News. Remember, he has his own channel here, guys, and the link are in the description. Did you get your retrieve your drink, sir? Let me put you up on the screen there, sir. So, and then I will reveal you to the crowd. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Bing. You got the drink? Yeah. What's going on today, brother?
Yeah. Feeling good, man. Feeling optimistic. Got a lot of really, really good truths to dump here today concerning that little speck of land 90 miles south of Key West. How?
That speck of land. Now, would that be a place that looks like it's named like that?
Yes.
Cuba. I mean, they put out this.
We're going to talk about how deep the tentacles of their intelligence apparatus extend and how deep they have gotten. And I have a couple of cases here that we can talk about tonight. But in the midst of all of that, I am going to ask my other two brothers here of a conversation we had on my broadcast back in March. It was strictly a theory of mine that then turned into a comment from the network on the island, one of the last transmissions that I got. And that comment that I was briefed on, we spoke about on that broadcast. And Florition to be 100% correct, 100% correct. And I'm going to share a link with you guys here, but we'll leave that for when you give me the tap on the shoulder.
Well, I mean, I was just going to say, we got this, lengthy report from the State Department the other day, state.gov, and it's just a bunch of boring reading in there, nothing much of consequence. And I'm, of course, being very tongue-in-cheek, but, I mean, I, of course, keyed in, as many people did key in, on page 46. So I don't know how this will line up exactly here. It'll be in the ballpark here, 45. But yeah, we went into page 46 here, and I read a couple of pages of this, or maybe a couple paragraphs of this. But this is very, very important stuff, and I think at the end of the day, they're exposing the crap out of this. And I gave all credit to you three, letting my folks know yesterday that I was unaware of how deep and good their intelligence was in Cuba. And only through, bumping into you fine gentlemen did I understand about that. But then we get this dropped on our lap, and it's talking about all sorts of crap about Obama and Bernardine Dorn there and Bill Ayers and coming out of the University of Chicago. So I don't know if you wanted me to read a little bit of this or if you want to just take it and run, but whatever you guys want to talk about.
Go for it. One thing. Yeah, sure. Take it and read it. But Cuba plays long game human intel, and they do it very, very well. I'll leave it at that.
Well, Ghost, you and I have saved a couple people from some honeypots. But me and you have saved some people.
Do those trace to Cuba?
Yes.
Oh.
Bingo.
Yep.
Huh?
Bingo. Yeah, honeypots. You know what they are.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what they are. Yeah.
Yeah, and, me love you long time.
And there's some pretty hot honeypots too. And it is what it is. But if you know the game, you stay away from that game. You know what it is when it approaches you. Bottom line, if you're used to that world. I even saved a fellow well-known podcaster from a Chinese honeypot in Miami. And it was so obvious to me. It was like, don't even think twice. Stop it. I'm going to tell you what's happening right now in this very dark, closed off section of a 5-star hotel where they just happen to appear at 11:30. It's not, and they're singing songs with their everything almost showing. I could almost count the hairs on one, not meaning to be graphic, but I said, I don't care what it looks like. It's death to your world. Don't go near it. And if you get on the elevator, get off if they're on.
Oh, wow.
Do not be on the same floor or if you're in the lobby, get the hell out of the lobby. If you're not, just pretend you don't see them, walk away. Exactly. Walk away.
I knew who that guy was. Never mind. Yeah. I'll leave it here.
and it's very, very real stuff. So,
oh, God.
I got a question, they're very good at it. Because most men would go humming, and they give way to their nutsack, and the rest is payment for the rest of your life, or death, or worse than death, even. But
you guys got to get training on this stuff. No, Ghost? I mean, you guys got to get training, and I would assume it's got to be something along hey, if you're like a 3 to a 5 or a 6, and like a 9 or a 10 comes walking up to you and sounds all sorts of interested,
talking to you, and says, you're the most magnificent guy I've ever met. Please tell me about everything. And next thing you know, you're in the room, you're honeypotted, and the cameras and everything's there. It's smaller than 1/10 of your pinky fingernail that can broadcast 10 miles, let alone video that you're not going to see, let alone everything else. It's all there. If it's not in room, it's on her. And watch how she places her purse and her stuff. It's all so fucking excuse my language, predictable that if you fall for it, you're a sorry sack. And I'm sorry
if you got a physique like Jerry Nadler, the response is sorry, guys like me don't get girls like you. So bye.
That's what it should be. But like you said, some
but
people
in
will
his mind, Yeah, he's thinking, I think my leverage can outdo their leverage. I'll bang her anyway. Yeah, good luck with that too. They've got it set up. If that's going to happen, you're pretty much in a net unless you just walk away.
Yeah, and they got everyone set up from the bartender to the Uber driver, the taxi driver to the bellman. They got it all set up.
Yes.
Yeah,
Especially if you're one of those idiots who goes to the bellhop out front and says, "Hey, where can I get some, company?" Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's very much movie stuff, but that's movies mimic real life, right?
That's where they get it.
That's right.
Very real life. Very real life. Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. Well, I mean, getting back into this Cuba stuff here, it started here. We get to Obama down here, and they do talk about, I mean, I don't know if there's anything that you wanted me to touch on that's older than this stuff, because it did kind of go, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. And then when we come over here to page 46, we're up to, the Obama time. So I'm going to start right here then.
Just do page 46, because that'll segue right into what I'm going to talk about a couple of individuals only. Mm-hmm. And this is, of course, declassified already. So, and I got the goods on that, but I am telling you, once you're done reading that, I'll go over really quick the two that were, that I'm going to talk about as top case examples that were already charged and prosecuted. I'll give you the latest one, and then the one which is Ana Belén Montes, which was 20 years of deep infiltration all the way at the DNI level. I'll give you a little bit of her, but then I'll save the best for after that part's over. So go for it.
Absolutely. So we're getting a little history here in the intelligence, counterintelligence type of stuff, and what these people have been doing. So it says, over the past half century, programs like the Brigade have helped Cuba infiltrate and establish a foothold in a series of radical American political movements. Increasingly, its reach has also extended to mainstream liberal institutions, elite academia, major nonprofits, NGOs, and even the Democrat Party itself. This has been driven in part by the rehabilitation and mainstreaming of many of the ideas and figures of the revolutionary 60s era. Bernardine Dorn, for example, was one of the Weather Underground co-founders who traveled to Havana to meet with Cuban and Viet Cong officials in July of 1969, and subsequently helped to orchestrate a string of terror attacks on American soil. Dorn was the author of Weather Underground's first communique, declaring, quote, war against the United States government in 1970. Despite having once been one of the FBI's 10 most wanted figures, Dorn went on to work at the elite white shoe law firm Sidley and Austin. And I'll remind folks, as I did yesterday, that they were part of the drops as well, Sidley and Austin, and was later hired as a professor at Northwestern Law School, where she taught for over 20 years. In 1995, Barack Obama launched his first ever run for political office in the living room of Dorn and her husband, Bill Ayers, another co-founder of the Weather Underground, who would go on to become professor of education at University of Illinois in Chicago. Dorn was hardly the only former Venceremos radical to transition into mainstream power. Susan Rosenberg is a Brigade alumna who later joined the May 19th. Oh, good.
I was going to say, what these people's histories point to? Even if shit sits there long enough, it doesn't smell so bad.
Shit smells. All right. So Miss Rosenberg here became alumna and joined the May 19th Communist Organization, a particularly violent terrorist offshoot of the Weather Underground that was responsible for the murder of 2 police officers and a security guard in 1981. She later became the vice chair for the board of 1,000 Currents, a powerful progressive nonprofit that served as fiscal sponsor of Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation. So communists into Black Lives Matter. The Brigade's alumni rolls into also include not one, but 2 mayors of Los Angeles. The first, Antonio Villaraigosa, served as mayor 2005 to 13. Prior to that, he had served as a speaker of the California Assembly. The second one, you guys will remember this name, Karen Bass, the current Los Angeles mayor.
Sure. And just for history purposes, Mayor Villagrosa, I always butcher his name. So when LA Sheriff Tanaka and Baca got indicted by the FBI, the Sheriff Baca and Tanaka were playing part of his Mayor Antonio Villagrosa schemes in the city of LA. So they were doing a lot of financial cooking the books and getting a lot of grants and putting money in different shell accounts and pockets as well. So they're all working together.
Well, it sounds like the Black Lives Matter way right there. Absolutely. So I think, yeah, we got Karen Bass there, and then the other one, she would go on to serve in Congress, where she chaired the Congressional Black Caucus and was widely considered to be one of the finalists for then candidate Joe Biden's vice presidential pick in the 2020 election. Bass's friendliness towards the communist regime has not dissipated with age. In 2016, she traveled to Cuba with President Obama as part of a congressional delegation seeking to normalize relations with Havana. When Castro died that same year, she released a statement. Now, Armando and guys, before you get into all the stuff you want to talk about, I had I don't know if it's an epiphany, a thought. I guess we'll just call it a thought. This made a little bit of sense to me, because if everybody kind of remembers, I think they were shading like the Obamas and the Bidens as kind of confrontational towards the end there. And as I read this last night during my show live, I was like, wait, is this why maybe they were kind of bumping heads? Because basically Obama wanted to get Karen Bass in there, but he ended up picking Kamala Harris instead. And I don't know that to be true. It's just the thought that came to my head. So I don't know if that holds any validity to you guys on that one, but Armando, otherwise you could take the Mike.
Yeah, no, it does. So I was working with the task force out in Minneapolis, and during 2016, it was a DOJ SIS task force, and that was in the midstream of all of the Somalis coming over, and we were doing our due diligence and grace, and everything was fine tooth and comb, going, phenomenal. And all of a sudden, the task force was just disbanded because it was disbanded. And about, half a year later, I had found out through the leader of the task force that because of leadership in the congressional realm, that the task force was doing too well, and they didn't want us to catch on to, the current congressional representative, Ilhan Omar. And that was actually the person that disbanded the task force, because they knew that the task force we were on was eventually going to lead into what they were doing.
Yeah, so, you can't have that.
Yeah. So they played. So they were very proactive against our task force work, and disbanded us because they didn't want us to come in and find any of any of the bad stuff they were doing. And it's just kind of ironic. And I'm actually pretty happy that it's starting to blow up in their face right now. And I'm glad Trump is behind it, and Trump has all the information. And so, what goes around comes around.
Hell yes.
Mike, out of all the states that I've seen cases in or dealt with cases in, California all the way to the top in Sacramento is the dirtiest. I've seen the dirty, I'm not going to name the states, but believe me, there's plenty of them. But with California, it went all the way to the AG a few years back. And what a travesty. All that data I still got to get to you to get to the right people, because that one should never have been. And when I saw that and how they played it, it was California is a step above on the entire corruption scale. And it pains me to say that, because it's such a great state. So many good people, and just the topography, everything that happens there, from aerospace to film, everything. This should not be, it simply should not be. I'll leave it at that.
Absolutely.
Well, keep California keep California in mind.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. And I do have that one ready to go, Armando, as well. If that second
go
one.
for
it.
Yeah. Go.
Do you want me to go with Miss Flores first, or that one post there?
No, you can go, not Monty's, but you can go with Monty's, or you can go with that chart I just texted you right now that you sent me, which is 100% spot on.
Okay. So here is the chart. Do you want me to read this up for the folks, or do you want to kind of?
If you want to, if you want to, because there is a little caveat here, and I'll just cut it loose when you're done.
Absolutely. So observing consciousness here says Cuba was never acting alone. Havana functioned as the Western Hemisphere command node inside a much larger global architecture. Moscow supplied strategic depth, intelligence, tradecraft, and military alignment. Beijing supplied technology, surveillance, and communications infrastructure, and geopolitical protection. Tehran expanded the militant energy and sanctions, evasion corridors. Caracas supplied oil, territory, state infrastructure, and regional sustainment. Then the City of London supplied another essential layer, the financial circuitry.
All this is coming together. You see?
Absolutely. Global networks.
Keep going.
Yeah, global networks do not survive on ideology and intelligence alone. They require capital routing, offshore structures, legal shielding, banking access, insurance, trade finance, and institutional protection capable of moving power across borders while separating the money from the mission. This is where the architecture becomes...
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Oh, and I got one on that one as well. That is where the architecture becomes complete. Cuba trains, recruits, penetrates, and organizes. Venezuela resources and sustains. Russia and China reinforce, coordinate, and protect. Iran extends the illicit and militant access. While the City of London represents the transnational financial layer through which wealth, influence, and operational continuity can be preserved behind the appearance of legitimate commerce. Yeah, the appearance of legitimate commerce. Then the system reaches inward through intelligence assets, diplomatic channels, universities, media, NGOs, activist fronts, political movements, corporate structures, and institutional access points. Foreign directed pressure is converted into domestic agitation. Imported ideology is made to appear organic, and a coordinated international system begins operating under the illusion of disconnected local movements. This is the greater map. Cuba was the regional relay. Moscow and Beijing supplied strategic power. Tehran and Caracas supplied operational corridors. The City of London supplied financial reach and insulation, and domestic assets opened the door from inside. It says the State Department is not merely exposing an island, it is identifying one command node inside a transnational system built to weaken American sovereignty, fracture social cohesion, penetrate institutions, and redirect a nation through pressure applied from both outside and within. Nice.
Very well done.
Yeah.
Very well done and very accurate. I mean, look, City of London hides behind the idea of their behavior is impeccable. You know, they're the banking center of the world. No, they're being shown, and this is what the public needs to see more of, that the administration is outing these centers of traditional power that have subjugated our nation as well as 2/3 of the world. The other third wasn't worth it yet to them. And what they're not mentioning, and they probably won't go to this level because they're going to make deals, and the deals will benefit this country, but I'm talking Switzerland and certain aspects of Italy that will never make they'll never make the press. If they do, I'll be pleasantly surprised. And I'm talking mainly about the Lombardy region in Italy and Switzerland and parts of, so Österreich or Austria, even many influences of France. However, France is no different than we are. You have a lot of good factions in military intel and intelligence that are working against the bad factions in this overall. I don't know how to frame it other than to say play out of light and dark on the planet. Because we don't get a restored republic without light triumphing. We don't get sovereignty, nation state sovereignty reestablished from this globalist wet dream of the last 200 years that is not going to work according to human nature. If we work according to human nature, we can actually come together in much better ways. However, the economic balance we have now, warfare is still the most profitable venture. When we can change that from warfare, hear me out, to space, we'll have a much better global economy, thriving like you've never seen before. Werner von Braun said it. It played out through many individuals, especially Dr. Carol Rosin, a dear friend of mine. I will never not say that because she is. And so many others out there who have done many countries who've done such good work to offset this. When you have a transition, you can't leave a vacuum politically, economically. Why do you think the three of us have been talking about Cuba for now going on a year?
Yep.
Because it had to fall. That first domino, whether Israel wanted it their way or not, is regardless of what we had to do there. We had to do what we're doing there. Just like Putin had to do what he's doing. Didn't have to, but it was a good start in Ukraine. Now, all you Ukraine forever, all you God bless Ukraine forever people, God bless you. But you're not understanding the true, again, reality version of the geopolitical and the history of the world in relation to banking and finance and how power is distributed through that network. Law does nothing but defend that. That's your outer ramparts and boundaries and wires that give you early warning, and also what directs fire outside of the fire base. The banking, the law surrounded the finance, which kept it all going, and I'll leave it with this, kept the spectating global audience always in a pipeline of fictional narratives 90% of the time, and 90% of the interpretations of events are always a probable or possible one, but not the real one, but the fictional one you will get. Is it starting to make sense? I hope so, because we've been talking about Cuba forever. And we've been saying it's a domino that has to fall. It was expected to fall earlier than this. The wiliness of the IRGC was taken into consideration. All of their thousands of mountain redoubts were taken into consideration. And it's being played now to its end stages. And as of 10 days ago, yeah, a military option with Cuba was on the table. Now, how far that goes and how far it needs to go remains to be seen. I'll leave Armando and Mike's comments up to that. But this is where we are. And this is not deviating one, gentlemen, am I deviating 1 millimeter from that azimuth that we shot a year ago? No, I'm not.
Mm-mm.
And here we are to see it.
Right on point. There is one thing. This report was very, very good. Okay. Spot on 100%. That graph there, also very good. However, it's not 100%. It's 95% because there's something missing from that. What is missing from there? Okay. You won't hear it because this is Majestic 12 shit. Okay. The Vatican is missing from that. Because why? They own that island. Don't forget that. Their hands are in this too. But they're, like Ghost said, certain areas of Italy, not to be mentioned now, if and when they ever make the news, and if they ever do, I'll welcome it. Okay? But that's the missing key component from this entire information right here and that graph. Remember that. Okay? They own that island.
It's not condemning Italy.
No,
It's
not condemning Italy at
certain
all. They're
factions
a
within
nation.
Italy.
Yeah, they're a faction nation in itself.
Yep.
Okay, that's it. Okay, and don't forget it. Ireland's included in that one also as well. But that's for another show.
And also, you remember that deep dive we did, especially with all the artwork and all the
Correct.
Smithsonian and all the other shared, artwork displays that were coming over to Cuba, with, in lieu of all the financial money laundering with that. That was actually eye opening to me when, you conferred on that, and that was actually a pretty big deal, because it widens the net widens the net a lot larger. And I don't know if you want to talk about that or not, but
I'll keep it really
yeah,
brief.
good. Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
So a lot of that artwork and figurines, statues, I don't know, just statues or, whatever. A lot of them had a religious tie into that. A lot of it. Who was in charge of that? Okay. The churches. This is the reason why when we started talking about Cuba a year ago, okay, when everything started, regime, the blackouts, the power outages, the idea of statehood and all that good stuff, and or territory or whatever, blah, 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 blah. The Archdiocese of Miami comes out, and they were the first one to air on the mainstream media, talking about the very first thing that needs to happen above anything else, infrastructure, economy, taking care of the people that are starving and all that stuff, was what? The reinstitution of the church. Who sent that message? And then we had the political prisoners, the 51 that were released.
Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
Pope Chicago.
Pope Chicago. There you go. Right? And then we had the 51 prisoners that were released, that they only aired and videotaped one of them, okay, that had been imprisoned for 5 years. All 51 of them, with the exception of one, is the only one they captured on video being reunited with his mother. He didn't look like he did 5 years in the prison down in Cuba. That guy was fit as a fiddle, man. What happened to the other 50? Who knows where they went? All young men of fighting age. I saw the video released to me, okay, of them coming out of the prison. They looked like they had been in there for 8 hours. That's how good a shape they were in. Okay, so start connecting the dots on that level, people, because I'm telling you, what they're showing you out there is not what's really going on. But go ahead, Mike.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to get to Miss Flores in 1 second, but I just, you got the people that are out there, and I don't know who this guy is. Chancellor de Cuba, Patria, Humanidad, whatever. The latest fallacy from the U.S. Department of State against Cuba forms the part of the construction by the Secretary of State of a pretext for sustaining its cruel and criminal economic war that punishes every Cuban family. Wait, weren't we trying to send them
Is this comedy?
Weren't we trying to send them goods, but then the people that are running the place don't let the goods get down to the people who actually need them? Or am I misunderstanding that? I mean...
No, they take all the resources that are sent to the island, and we're going to cover that here shortly. All the resources that come into the island, the regime will keep a portion of it. The rest of it, they turn around and they sell it to make money. And then they bankroll that money and they send it out overseas, and the people get nothing.
Yeah. And you also got to remember too, on the island too, we have Al Qaeda there, you have ISIS, you have the Taliban,
Muslim Brotherhood. Yeah.
Oh, really?
You have large terrorist networks that are there on the island right now, and they are working with each other. They're not working against each other. They're working with each other to dominate what they can, and working operational load and wise on the island with the Cuban regime right now.
And a lot of that's can be directed to our country. Just a rowboat or just 25 horsepower motor in the right weather, they can make it across. So a lot of that is not that we already have enough here, but they, from there, can guide here much easier than they can from Iran.
there is a latest report too. Anna Paulina Luna dropped this, that I think it was Hillsborough County Coast Guard caught a vessel coming from the island. Maybe 10 to 15 operatives were on that boat. They got arrested. They got caught. They were all AQ. They were all Iranian IRGC. All of them.
There you go.
Yep.
That's hardcore direct.
If you disembark in Hillsborough County, all you got to do is hop on I-4 and it's the direct line where? Mar-a-Lago. We talked about that on one of my shows. Okay. So I hope security is being beefed up over at Mar-a-Lago, because I'm telling you, these people they're not playing games.
I think for every 3 square meters of water, you got a SEAL or support team ready to pop their head up. Honestly.
Good.
This is from almost 2 years ago, just under 2 years ago. Paulina Luna saying, over the last 2 years, Joe and Kamala imported over 500,000 illegal aliens from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela on commercial flights. President Trump will stop the invasion of our country and bring safety back. Dude, that's a shock to me, guys, that there's all these different
President
terrorist
Trump
groups
number
there.
is 25 million over the course of the 4 years of the Poopy Pants administration.
Yeah, so they were saying 20 something
That's
to 25.
That's his number. That's his number, 25 million.
But that was a shock to me to know that Al Qaeda and all these different terrorist organizations in Cuba. And I just looked it up really quickly because I was like, well, how big is Cuba? And apparently it's 45,000 square miles or something like that.
Well,
and it has 10 million people.
Yeah, and you also have the Iranian forces that are in Cuba as well. So it's not just your terrorist original terrorist network organizations. You have Iranian military there, intelligence, operatives, and you also have the proxy groups, Hamas, and the rest of the proxies that are there as well.
Wow.
They're working hand in hand and going down the merry road.
That's pretty wild.
This is firsthand intel too. But
yeah,
Armando, I'd say stay away from details on that.
No, I'm not going to go there. I know better.
No, I know. I'm just saying.
All right, Armando. I pulled your girlfriend's picture up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there she is.
Don't get too excited, Space.
Ana Belén Montes. Yeah, so I'm not going to go into her really, really deep. You guys can find this out there on Wikipedia on her, but this is one of 2 people, which I'm going to dive into right now if I can, Mike, who went into as high as our DNI, okay, for at least 20 years, if memory serves me correct. Now, the funny part about this is that she was born in Nuremberg, West Germany, okay, graduate from University of Virginia, Johns Hopkins, intelligence analyst and stuff like that. But she was handled by another gal, okay, who basically recruited her into Cuban intelligence. She's actually Puerto Rican, okay? She got arrested. She got busted. FBI did a fabulous job getting her. And basically how they got her was they tracked her phone calls off a burner phone. They connected it to pay phones, and she was dropping numeric code numbers or numbered code. Okay. Specifically, that's how she was communicating intel back to the party, back to the regime. And they were able to decode what she was sending. And then they just connected the dots, and they arrested her. She served 20 years of her 25-year sentence. She was released early by a deal that was done with with Obama. Go figure. That's when he opened up everything in Cuba. He went to the baseball games and stuff like that. That was part of the deal, okay, of releasing her. But she currently resides right now in Puerto Rico, if I'm not mistaken, and I believe she's like in her late 70s now, okay? Now, whether she is, I don't know, maybe I'm going to say cooperative today, if that's the right word, we don't know, Okay. But that was a big breach. That was a huge breach. One of two. So if I can, I'll dive into the little, this little report that I put together here.
Absolutely.
Just to give the audience here.
You want to share the screen, brother?
I got it on my prompter.
Okay, yeah, no problem. Take your time. And I did pull up this thing here. It's another. So when I went in to look up, who recruited Miss Montez here, it was telling me Marta Rita Velasquez, and apparently there's a story about this within that. But don't let me hold you from your story. Go right ahead, my man.
Yep, that is correct. So, most significant recent case, of the top spy for the Cuban intelligence that was busted was a guy by the name of Victor Manuel Rocha. Okay, he was charged in 2023, sentenced in 2024, not too long ago. So Victor Manuel Rocha is the clearest modern parallel to Antamontes. Okay, in terms of seniority and strategic access. So access, the aspect and the details and the role, I'm going to break it down for you. So former U.S. ambassador to Bolivia. Okay, let that sink in. Bolivia. What does Venezuela call itself? The Bolivian, whatever the hell it is. All right, so there's connections there. This guy was senior State Department official, served on the National Security Council, and later advised U.S. Southern Command. Let that sink in also. All right. The investigation, it was an FBI undercover investigation, culminated in his arrest in December of 2023. The crime, he pled guilty to acting as an intelligent agent for the Cuban government for decades. The outcome, he was sentenced in 24 to 15 years in federal prison and fined. So his known access level was extremely high and strategic national level, right? Ambassadorial rank, White House NSC exposure, Latin America policy, and SOTHCOM related access. Why it matters. Rocha is widely regarded as one of the most serious Cuban intelligence penetrations of the U.S. government discovered in recent decades. Public recording describes him as having served Cuban intelligence interests while holding senior diplomatic and national security positions over many years. And that source came from the U.S. Department of Justice case filings and sentencing announcements. Major reporting on Rocha prosecution included coverage summarized in recent reporting on Cuban espionage cases. Other notable Cuban espionage cases was Kendall Myers and Gwendolyn Myers. They were convicted in 2009. Their aspect, details, and roles were: Kendall Myers was a longtime State Department intelligence analyst. Gwendolyn Myers assisted him. The FBI uncovered operation and exposed the couple. They pled guilty to conspiracy to commit espionage for Cuba. Their known level of access was high diplomatic intelligence analysis level. The access to classified State Department information on Latin America and U.S. foreign policy. All right, so older than Rocha, but still one of the most important proven Cuban espionage prosecutions involving the U.S. government access was the WASP network, okay, the Cuban Five, as they were coined. Those were 1990 prosecutions. Their aspect, details, and individuals was Gerardo Hernandez, Ramon Labanino, Antonio Guerrero, Fernando Gonzalez, and Renee Gonzalez. No relation to me. Their crime, convicted in the United States of espionage-related offenses and acting as unregistered agents of Cuba. Their known level of access was operational, network level, infiltrated anti-Castro. This is important. This is important here, folks, because I'm going to dive into this here in a little bit. Listen carefully, because I'm going to talk to Ghost and to Doc about this, what I'm about to say right now, right? A year ago, literally. This guy or these people, they infiltrated anti-Castro exile groups in Florida and gathered intelligence, okay? Historically significant, but not a recent investigation. Several members were later released or returned to Cuba as part of diplomatic arrangements. Excuse me, I'm coming down with something.
God bless you, Obama.
Yeah. Carlos and Elsa Alvarez, convicted in 2006. their aspect, details, and roles. Get this, university professor and spouse in Florida, the both of them. All right, at the educational level, there comes your indoctrination. Crime, convicted of acting as unregistered agents for Cuban government. Their known level of access was civilian influence. Civilian influence. Remember that. I'm dropping ding-dings. Intelligence support level, not a senior U.S. national security insider. Okay. Most recent investigations or allegations, Manuel Rocha is the standout modern case among cases investigated in the 2020s. Rocha is by far the most consequential publicly known prosecution tied to Cuban intelligence. Other names sometimes raised in discussions of Cuban espionage are generally older convictions, intelligence history cases, or allegations that have not resulted in recent criminal charges. These guys fly under the radar very, very well, okay? Cases often mentioned, but not recent prosecutions. Our girl up there, Ana Belén Montes, convicted in 2002, released in 2023 after serving most of her sentence. The next one is Kendall and Gwendolyn Myers, convicted in 2009. Of course, we have the WASP network, or the Cuban Five, prosecuted in the 1990s and early 2000s. Then Carlos and Elsa Alvarez, convicted in 2006. Known levels of penetration, the case, the known level, Ana Belén Montes, top tier intelligence insider at DIA. Okay, top tier. This girl got awards, conferences from presidents. I mean, this girl was rocking it, okay, until she got caught. Victor Manuel Rocha, top-tier diplomatic national security insider. Kendall Myers, high-level State Department intelligence analyst. Of course, the WASP network, operational espionage network, still active today, okay? Carlos and Elsa Alvarez, civilian agent support level. That is critical, and I'll explain why here in just a little bit. Bottom line is this, guys. The most important recently investigated Cuban espionage case after Ana Belén Montes is Victor Manuel Rocha. He was investigated by the FBI, arrested in 2023, pleaded guilty, and was sentenced in 2024 for acting as an agent of Cuba while serving at extraordinarily high levels in the U.S. government. Other notable proven Cuban espionage cases, like I mentioned before, which is important to know, Kendall Myers and Gwendolyn Myers, okay, the WASP network. All right, remember these names. Carlos Alvarez and Elsa Alvarez, involved lower or different forms of penetration, ranging from high-level diplomatic analyst to operational spy networks. Okay, it's key to know these things. There is no public evidence of a newly exposed Cuban spy ring inside the highest levels of the U.S. government yet, comparable to Montes beyond the Rocha case. Claims about unnamed officials, elected politicians, or broad ideological groups should be treated cautiously unless backed by formal charges, convictions, or official counterintelligence findings. Okay? That's it. So now you have an idea. Those are just two cases, but like them, there are many here. But again, they're very good. They're very cunning. They're very sly, right? They fly deep, deep, deep below the radar. Okay, this is how good these people are. All right?
Wow. Dude, you know, I noticed something, and I know you guys are going to go somewhere, and don't let me derail you guys. But again, I'm looking through this Cuba report, and I zoomed in on this, and it talks about people that are basically convicted murderer protected by Cuba, close friends, political partners with Robert F. Williams, welcome Fidel Castro to America, Malcolm X. All right. This guy's name sparked it for me, Huey P. Newton, and I've told you guys about the weird connection that I found years and years ago that links oh God, what's his Muslim name?
Well,
his name was Donald Warden. He was the mentor to this guy.
Cleaver, Stokely Carmichael, they're Angela
Eldridge
Davis. Cleaver? Yeah, they're Eldridge Cleaver over on the left. They're all part of the Black Panther and Weather Underground crossover. And yes, I have no doubt. I've heard of Cuban involvement with them, most definitely, but I have no doubt that they were. They'll do it. They would have never known it, most of them. And
Absolutely.
that's how that game is played. I mean, we're going back. Remember, I think it was 59 when was it 58, 59 when Castro came to power.
Yeah,
They
59.
came, yeah, they came to New York, and let's just say a close relative who was a plumber, supervisor for high-rise buildings, building them in New York. He had to service the floor that the Cuban delegation was on in the one major hotel in New York. I'm trying to remember the name. It's still there. And they
I
had
believe
chickens and
I believe it
goats
was I
in their
believe it was
rooms.
the Waldorf Astoria, if I'm not
It was
mistaken.
yeah, it was the
Yeah.
Waldorf, yeah, it was the Waldorf Astoria. And they had the contract for that building also, but they had to go in and clean plumbing because they had goats and chickens in rooms on their floor. They brought in essence, they brought their own food to address the UN as a delegation for the first time.
Are you
And I
serious?
think all of that was yes, I'm
You
as
know what the
serious as a
goats
heart attack. This man
know
was
what
on the floor in the rooms, saw it.
you know what the goats and the chickens were for?
What,
Rituals.
testing the food?
No, black magic rituals.
I wouldn't doubt it. Yeah.
Yep.
And because
Santeria.
even to this day, Ortega's wife is a practicing black witch,
Correct.
Santeria. And
Yeesh.
this is right down in Nicaragua today, where they've killed more than have been killed in, and this is since 2017, 18 rather, early spring 18. They've killed more people than IRGC has their own people in their own prisons.
And as of yesterday, Mr. Ortega canceled presidential elections. No more.
Oh,
Done.
yeah. You see, he was supposed to be the complete opposite. But again, absolute power corrupts. Power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts. Absolutely. And he and his wife, his psycho bitch wife, and their son, who made off with the Trump of Nicaragua's 550 million. That, though, proud to say, was frozen by the New York Fed of all places, so they can make interest on that 550 million while they sit on it before they give it back to the man who is in possession of it. But it's still a mess in all of these, in certain countries, still in Central and South America, because of what the nexus points in Cuba develop and enable. When they needed to cover their borders in Nicaragua from young students, especially escaping, they brought in 5,000 Cubans, Russian advisors. You're not going to have one without the other in a situation like that, even to this day. And even they didn't seal the borders, but they did a damn good job of hurting a lot of people in the attempts of doing it. And I don't know if they're still there, but these situations are going on. And I think you'll see about, if you look it up, you'll see 5 references: 2018 April, let's say March, April, May timeframe. Look up demonstrations in Nicaragua and what was done. And you're not getting the truth from those articles either. When Ortega said, okay, once all of his secret police, they don't have a military, that's why they relied on the Cuban military for border shutdown. Once they had taken as many photographs of as many faces in the crowd as they could, Ortega ordered the snipers to disperse the crowd by telling them to fire upon the children of mothers and fathers protesting for a free and open election that was always promised to them by Ortega.
Very.
And he just canceled it yesterday.
You know, he just made it official again, but made it official that it's being reported. Now that it's being reported probably brings up a good note, because I always said, even up to a year ago and beyond, after Cuba, you're going to see Nicaragua and a few others get smacked in the face. A few of the others that I say are getting in line themselves, at least attempting to.
Well, one of them is Argentina.
Argentina, Bolivia, and
Honduras.
Colombia. Yeah, Honduras, definitely. And they're going to try to fake their way through it, but that's not going to work in the end. And Ortega, I expect to see go down too. He'll be an afterthought, but a definite takedown, because that is a location of considerable future problems. And it was sad during his first administration. Agency was lying to him about it the whole time. And it could have turned into a very nasty situation. It did not. And nothing came back to be interruptive or bite anybody on the ass. And that's as it should be. But yeah, you're going to see trouble.
Trouble.
You're going to see trouble there.
Space shot. I'm going to go ahead and close my little droplet here, if I may, because this is the cherry on the top.
You may.
Okay, so this is for Ghost and this is for Doc Mike. We had on one of my broadcasts, we spoke about this, my concern, March of this year. Okay. What was happening in March of this year? When everybody started talking about, oh my God, Cuba's electrical grid just crashed. They have massive blackouts, the oil shortages, all this and that, the pot banging in the streets, the protest and all this and that was going on, right? Then there was talk about, oh, there's a possible move being done on Cuba. What were we talking about? We were talking about statehood or nothing. You guys remember?
Yeah.
Okay. Statehood or nothing. They will not accept anything. What happened? I'm going to use Miami as the example, and Orlando, and Tampa, and Houston, and Los Angeles. Okay. And where else? West New York. That's in New Jersey, by the way. Okay. Also as well. Right? You had pro-Trump, pro-free Cuba protests. Everybody waving the American flag, the Cuban flag, Trump supporting, make America great again, all that stuff going on, right? I get an intel drop, my human intelligence from the island, one of my last transmissions, because they've been dark ever since, telling me, you need to be aware of one thing. You need to be aware of Al-Qaeda, ISIS, even some factions from Houthis also as well that are there. Then you have Code Pink. Then you have the left, socialist, communist, natives here from the country, okay, that have been brainwashed, okay, that were across the street, standing there, not really protesting yet. What happened shortly after that? You had the communist and the socialist flotillas of humanitarian aid, rappers going to Cuba, taking and supporting the communist regime. Okay. This is all done by Cuban intelligence. Understand that. All that money is being funneled through, even including the Soros organization. They're all flipping the bill for all this stuff. It's all tied. BLM, all these things, all of them.
Rothschilds were funding them through transactions that, of all people, Epstein was involved in.
Yep. Also, remember, guys, Ghost just said something really important. Why is Cuba so geographically, strategically important? Understand, Cuba was the hopping point. It was the segue for narco trafficking, human trafficking, child trafficking, drugs, whatever, you name it. They were the hopping point. Cuba, United States, or the islands, which I won't get it too deep into that, over in the Caribbean.
Right.
Okay. Remember that. Okay. They're all connected.
And just so the audience knows, like all of this information is vetted and corroborated from an investigative standpoint, military intelligence standpoint, federal intelligence. This is all vetted, all corroborated.
And I'll just make a joke. Oh, and you've got Mossad playing both sides of the coin from South America on up.
Oh, for sure.
Funny. That's a funny joke, isn't it?
No, for
Yeah.
sure. They are heavily invested there too. Trust me. Okay. Now, what was the warning that I shared with you and Doc during that broadcast back in March? I shared it with the audience too, based on what I saw. If Cuba does not get statehood, if they do not get statehood and they get anything else, Miami is going to go into a chaotic state. They will start rioting. They will start burning. They will start doing all kinds of violent acts. Not from the pro side. It'll be from the other side, which is already here. Not just Miami, Orlando, Tampa. Okay. That's Muslim Brotherhood, Al-Qaeda. Okay. The Cuban left extremists, your Code Pinks, your BLMs, you know, all those other knockoff factions, whatever. Okay. In New Jersey, in Houston, in Los Angeles also as well. Right. I warned about that. If they don't get statehood, we're going to get violence here. We wrote up reports. It went up the chain. We advised those that needed to be advised, okay, of the possibilities of this. Yeah. All right. We got, okay, thank you very much, you know, and this and that and blah, 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 blah. All right.
And if I could interject here real quick, just
go. Yeah.
So while this was going on, Rubio was acting as an intermediary and was in the conjunction of helping out, wanted to assist with humanitarian aid. So he was willing to give millions, and there was a possibility of close to $1 billion of humanitarian aid to Cuba. However, that money, per the deal, would have had to go through the church, and through the church, then to be distributed down to Cuba through the government and through the nonprofit organizations and other organizations through there. Now, when Rubio made that, the officials and regime in Cuba declined that. They said no, because they saw that it was going to go through the church, through a religious institution, which what Armando was already speaking upon, and canned what Rubio was offering. And Rubio was offering lots of money and lots of humanitarian aid for everybody in Cuba. And because they did not want to go through that deal, the regime did not want to go through that deal, they canned Rubio's offer.
Yep, they canned it. So I'm going to move a little bit forward. Thanks, Doc, for that, by the way. I'm going to move a little bit forward. So after these communist American factions, okay, the American Communist Party, Code Pink, and all the other idiots, all right, they finished their flotilla shit, and they all left. Who visited the island? That would be Nick Shirley, interviewing people, exposing the corruption, exposing the fraud, exposing all of these American-born communists that went down there in support of this, your Hollywood types, all those people. And then this magnified, okay, greatly, okay? He damn near went to jail. He had to hightail it the hell out of there too, okay?
Oh, yeah, he escaped.
Yep, let that sink in for a moment, okay? Now I'm going to share this clip. So you guys remember this conversation, the warnings that I gave, right? Mm-hmm. Ghost? Doc,
yep.
You remember that?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. Here's the cherry on the top. I just shared the link there in the private chat for you, Space Shot.
Sure.
This is 23 hours old. If you can please play it or read it.
Sure. I'll pull the story up, the accompanying story as well. It says, Cuba sleeper agents poised to wage war in California put U.S. on high alert as map of their top agents emerges. The plan outlines coordinated national actions within 24 hours if there is an imminent threat or a U.S. military move against Cuba. The National Network on Cuba, which created the Rapid Response Plan, brings together over 50 groups, including the Democratic Socialist of America, DSA, yep, Communist Party USA, and Code Pink. Organizers would focus on military bases, recruitment offices, federal buildings, ICE facilities, and even sports arenas during big events, the documents say. And Armando, they're going to say, when these people start getting arrested for being violent, oh, they're arresting, my neighbor and our citizens and Americans. They're just letting these ICE people take these Americans out of here. It's like, come on, it's total bullshit. We know
with a map and everything. So the Hummint that I got in March, here it is. The warning that I gave. There it is.
Anything more than silly music. The Treasury Department says it has blocked nearly $100 million in taxpayer-funded payments from going to, deceased recipients since launching a government-wide verification process last year. Let's see, is that this thing?
Going to somebody's account.
Officials said the review identified more than 4,900 payments linked to dead payees after screening 885 million disbursements. 885 million. Daily rescue. I think this is going into just different stories here.
Yeah. So go into that right there. This right here, folks, this is Cuban intelligence. This is how deep and how far and how good their tentacles stretched in our country.
California. Damn, Armando, you need some more protection after this broadcast.
California's sprawling network of military installations, federal facilities, and immigration enforcement sites could become flashpoints under a nationwide mobilization plan drawn up by activists with ties to Cuba, according to an alarming State Department report. The plan outlines coordinated nationwide actions within 24 hours of an imminent threat or U.S. military move against Cuba. We read this part already. DSA is active in California politics, especially in Los Angeles, where its local chapter has supported several elected officials at City Hall, like, Karen Bass, like we had just showed a little while ago.
Like the Venceremos Brigade. You think the Venceremos Brigade has gone away? No, it's not. It's very alive and very well, and very active in Los Angeles.
They just morph over time. That's all.
Yes, they certainly do. Now, guys, let me go over my little, probably what will be about a minute blurb. I'm going to record this as a short so I can put it out again later, because this is, and I think this is, and this just popped into my head as I'm reading this too. Like, wait, is it interesting that they made Marco Rubio, because he's Cuban, right? The Secretary of State, and we're going to have to deal with all this stuff here. But where I was going with this guy's earlier, right? And just if you got anything afterwards, just you can add on to it. But what I was showing with this is I came upon this article a long time ago, and it was written by a guy, you may remember his name, and I've said this story before, Vernon Jarrett. Will Arabs back ties to blacks with cash? Right? So they go in and they start talking about this guy right here, Mansour. Khalid Mansour. Khalid Abdul Tariq Al-Mansour, formerly known as Donald Warden of the Holmes and Warden law firm. Well, that guy, all right, the story goes, calls up Malcolm X's attorney, Percy Sutton, right? And, just off the cuff, by the way, Mansour there happens to be the mentor to Huey P. Newton and the other guy that started the Black Panthers as well. And the connections back in this story talk about an OPEC case where, by the way, Al-Mansour wrote a friend of the court brief in support of OPEC, and so did Justice Scalia. So weird connections going back to Justice Scalia back in the day, but what we're showing here is that these people that got Obama connected are very much inside of this organization and this group here. So I also will pose this question for you guys. And do you guys think that President Trump went through all of that stuff that he did with Obama's birth certificate for us to never get anything come to fruition on that one?
No.
I don't know.
No.
I don't know.
Everything is for a reason that they do. And he does.
Yeah,
and
Trump is very
miss. Yeah, go ahead, brother.
Just like Ghost is saying, President Trump, the commander-in-chief, is very strategic. If there's something he's not releasing in due time, there's a very strategic reason, and he's doing it for. And there's appropriate times for weights and measures, and that's something that he's very good at. So yeah, with what Gus is saying, there's appropriate times and adjustments.
Every block of intel, think of it as a different weapon system. One's a armor-piercing medium-range missile. One's an artillery shell guided. One is a HIMARS long range. Think of it that way. You're not going to use your long range. You're going to use your long range probably first, but your short range, when he says something 4, 5, 7, 8 years ago, that still sticks. That's your long range that they geared up then, and that strike point may be coming up. And this is what most do not understand about how their messaging works. Their messaging is more brilliant than any administration I have ever seen, bar none. Most of it is defense, misguidance, or blocking. They're not. And this is what people don't understand. And this is where your TDS crowd is only locked into a very childish mindset of cult of personality hatred.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do how many of those people who actually know him, and how many of them know him well enough to say, even comment like a De Niro, why he's saying what he's saying? They don't know their ass from a hole in the ground with all this. They're not looking at the governable long-term strategic initiatives that we're engaged in. And that's where people miss the mark with what he says and why he says it and when he says it. And notice there's been a lot of interesting posts by Dan Scavino lately. I'll just leave it at that.
Oh yeah. And guys, because I know all three of you were in the military at one point, right? So I don't know exactly to what extent. And this is like a 2-minute video, but I'm going to play about 20 seconds, maybe 30 seconds for you guys. But this is a report going back, I don't know this gentleman here, but I've seen this video many times and I've played it many times. And actually, it's funny because one of my Monday night co-hosts, Lisa, is actually her video. So if you go in and search 2008 FBI Obama on Twitter, you're going to see numerous copies of this same exact video with her little stamp on there. But listen to what he says in the very beginning here.
2008, something unbelievable happened for us in the FBI. We were getting lots of rumors about this high-level asset that worked for several intelligence agencies at the same time. He worked for the Saudi intelligence service. He worked for the CIA, and he was being developed as a political asset in Chicago, Illinois. He was not even a United States citizen, but it was said that he was a student visa and that he was a national from another country. In 2008, everyone in the intelligence structure found out who he was. It was this individual whose name I don't like to say, who became president in 2008 of the United States.
So what this gentleman is saying is essentially people in the FBI and intelligence were being made aware that there was an asset coming into our country, which I guess could be described as a Manchurian candidate, right? Somebody that's not supposed to be here, but they were getting indications of this. And I don't know, to be honest with you guys, I don't even know when this video was made, when this guy made this, but obviously it's between now and 2008. But he's saying back then that people in the intelligence department were getting this word that this guy was coming in. So I don't know if you guys have any comments or quotes or anything you want to say about that.
Mike, don't you know John? Or is it somebody else I know or knows him?
I'm sorry, say again.
I said, do you know John, or is it somebody else I know that knows him?
D'Souza?
Yeah.
D'Souza, yeah.
Yeah, I know him from the UAP task force.
Yeah. And if he's putting something like that out, let me ask you, it looks straightforward to me. Now, that's about, I think, as far as he could go with what he's saying. But he's not the first that I've heard something like that from. Others have been far, far deeper. And this is why when you said about the birth certificate space that, yes, you're not going to stake your reputation on something that you don't know, especially someone like Donald Trump. He's not going to stake his reputation on something he doesn't know is ironclad. And that was what, 2012, 11, 10, he was coming out with the birth certificate issue.
Mm-hmm.
Especially, do you honestly think that he didn't know that that bid for presidency was coming up? It was a matter of whether it would have been 16 or 20. Think about it. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I mean, I figure a lot of people were hearing this, or seeing it.
Let me just ask the audience, do you not think that there were certain foreign individuals that are not of the types we're usually speaking against who were also involved, as well as many domestic, as well as a global table or two that was not also looking to move? This has been a multi-decade, nay, multi-generational counter. Counter to what? Counter to the octopus that runs this planet from BIS on out, with the money, from City of London with law, from Berlin with certain other things. I'm going to try to remain, they can be kind of brash at times, so I don't want to piss them off, as well as the London Tel Aviv connection. And that goes to the chief rabbi of England. That goes to ambassador, same individual at times, and their influence with Canterbury and the royals. And why certain decisions, why Charles, that flaccid, very small penis man, I wouldn't know personally, I've just heard, is not governing his government as he has the power to accordingly.
For 200.
All right.
And all of the atrocious crimes that the British people have dealt with. Again, it is the enclaves within these various countries. It is not the people of Switzerland. It is not the people of Italy. It is not the British people by any stretch. It is not the German people. It is all of them that are being played. Well, look at the film, Citizen Vigilante. That, why would Elon Musk put that out there for 2 days for free?
I just saw
and
it
if you
yesterday.
watch it, yeah, pretty good, isn't it?
Oh God, yeah.
Reminds
Gory,
me of
but good.
That guy reminds me of a few guys I know. Present company not excluded.
He's a sicko, that dude.
Well, I don't know about Army Hammer in real life. I think there is a possibility somebody had a boner to pick with him and put that out and tried to mess with him. That's how nasty they are. I'm not saying he's not a freak. I'm not saying he is. I don't know. I don't know the man. And I don't know enough about him to say either way. But however, in that role, in that low budget film that was executed very well and makes an excellent point, by the way, because people are not their government and government are not their people.
Mm-mm.
This is a long discussion and I don't want to get into it, but there's a reason why. And Europe is being put in a vice right now, and it's not the European people. Unfortunately, you're going to have to be the ones to suffer the pain and pressure. And then you're going to have to decide where you're going to step up, where you're not going to take the knife attacks anymore or the gang rapes of your daughters. And then the young man who was stabbed, and the ones who stabbed him lied through their teeth, but they were immigrants. And even the shitty fucking cops that responded to that in England should be fired and drawn and quartered, as well as gutted at the same time for their behavior in that whole situation. That was not impartial policing. That was not situational awareness. That was not command of the situation in any stretch of the imagination. These people were not trained. And if they were severely lacking in common sense. But that's a microcosm aspect of what's happening throughout Europe. And believe me, especially the ones that are getting sick of it are the Italians, and they will let you know. And I think the reason why he put that out there, he's trying to make a point, a visceral point, that if certain governments, and it's not this one I'm referring to, ours, certain governments out there do not respond. That's why they had him as an American military trained, but taking care of family business, but also taking care of business on the side while he's there. You know, I'm not going to give away the story, but it's making a very visceral point. If they don't reverse from their course, that the Russians are pressuring them, and you can argue all day how they're doing it and what they're doing wrong, that's fine. They're doing it. And we're pressuring them through abstinence, backing out, breaking treaties. Why? Because the treaties are no longer fair. Recalculating tariffs, etc. All of this is playing towards a much, much, much larger goal. I think that's what most lost sight of, and there was no way to keep the messaging going in that from the administration without losing ground to your enemies. So they had to go through periods of what people thought were, oh, it's not this, and Trump's doing this. Shut up. If you don't see the points, the major data points that Armando covered brilliantly, and I'm sure cover more, that Mike is making and that I'm trying to impart, you're missing the entire, again, azimuth, straight line shot. We don't deviate from that. They haven't deviated if you look at all the major data points on a geopolitical scale, on a covert and overt scale, whether it's operations in and out of China or Russia or whatever's happening in the US. It is such a much more complex game than most realize. However, I'm again saying we're still on that azimuth. We're still going towards that end goal of sovereign nation state resurgence, for the simple reason that that is what is keeping up with human development overall, culturally, economically, every way you slice it. And we're in a very precarious time right now, so it appears. But I think people are going to be surprised. A lot of moves have been made. Certain moves were made by the 15th of this month. And those data points are all out there for everyone. The problem is you're being lambasted by mainstream media and internet media that is everywhere but over the target, with the exception of a dozen. The rest of them are out to lunch, looking for clicks, hiring PR firms because they're struggling. The ones who are over the target, they don't.
I was just putting up a little clip of this movie. This is where the citizen vigilante, where, by the way, this is why I said this about him, because I think he does play the psychopath really good. And this is why I said this earlier, Ghost. He said he wanted to cut his girlfriend's toe off and keep it in his pocket so he could always have a piece of her with him. I mean, that's romantic. I mean,
that's kind of freaky.
That's romantic.
I don't know about him, but he did a hell of a job in the film. I got to hand him that.
Yes.
He's trying to get back into the saddle, I guess. I don't know. Don't know.
Definitely plays a good, serious dude. And apparently this was about a bunch of, a girl, I guess, that got assaulted. And he goes there and basically does his citizen vigilante on them and then calls over the other guys that helped. And they come in and pop, pop, pop. Oh,
it's more than that. Yeah. It's pretty.
That's about
and
all I saw.
love the ending.
My kind of guy.
If you haven't seen the ending, the ending's perfect. It's perfect.
Right,
I'll just leave it at that. And it's so simple.
No spoilers.
I'm not going to spoil it. No, not going to do that.
All right, we'll get back to Mr.
I know Mike was eating popcorn and loving every minute of it too, and so was Armando. I know it.
Oh, wait, where was that report I had? I had another one that I'll pull it back up, Armando. I think I maybe went over it. But you had dropped another one, which is also them talking about the fact that basically what we were just talking about exactly. The State Department issuing a stunning new report accusing the Cuban government of fostering decades-long anti-American network of left-wing activist organizations in the United States.
No way.
Keep playing that. Keep playing that because there's a clip in there that's really important.
All right, let's do it. Here we go. Bing, bing, bing.
We begin this hour with Cuba. The State Department issuing a stunning new report accusing the Cuban government of fostering a decades-long anti-American network of left-wing activist organizations in the U.S. The report indicating Havana has been using ideological networks and organizations to advance its agenda and undermine American ideals.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio calling the regime, quote, the leading sponsor of radical leftism and third worldism in the United States. More on that in just a moment. Good morning and welcome to a brand new hour of National Report. We appreciate you spending part of your day with us. I'm Edie Hill. And I'm Krisha Lenzo. And let's take a look at some of the left-wing organizations implicated in this Cuban influence campaign.
ICAP.
All of them American groups. Here they are: Code Pink, ICAP, the People's Forum, Democrat Socialists of America, the National Lawyers Guild, and the National Network on Cuba. The report comes as the Trump administration has shown heightened interest in toppling the communist regime.
Well, let's get right to senior correspondent John Huddy. He has more on this. John, good morning.
Edie, Krisha, good morning. So the State Department report is titled Cuba, the capital of 21st century communism. It's 100 pages long and really lays out Cuba's 7 decades of subversion against the United States, including covert operations within the U.S. carried out by Cuban agents, sleeper agents, associates, along with working as a, quote, forward operating base for a rotating case of hostile foreign powers, notably Russia, China, and Iran. But the report also focuses in on the National Network on Cuba and what's called its National Rapid Response Plan. So the National Network on Cuba, you guys just talked about this, is a coalition of more than 60 organizations in the U.S. with links to the Cuban government. Members, as you mentioned, include Code Pink, the Socialist Workers' Party, Democratic Socialists of America, various communist groups. I mean, the list goes on and on. You can see some of it right there. The National Rapid Response Plan calls for, quote, coordinated nationwide actions within 24 hours of a U.S. military attack or the imminent threat of one. So that could mean protests, riots, or, according to the State Department report, acts of domestic terrorism targeting ICE facilities, federal buildings, and U.S. military bases. As the group's own website reads, it says the National Network on Cuba stands in full solidarity and support of Raul Castro, hero of the Republic of Cuba. We will continue to support the Cuban people and their defense of the Cuban Revolution and fight to stop all escalation against Cuba's sovereignty. And then it goes on to say, long live the revolution. Now, this would not be the first time that Cuba has been involved with potentially or trying to influence domestic terrorism in the United States carried out by radical leftist groups. It happened back in the 70s with the so-called Weather Underground. Cuban regime officials recruited members of that group, you see some of the wanted poster for them there, to carry out attacks in the United States, which they did. Now, Secretary of State Marco Rubio posted a link to the State Department report on X, and then going on to write, for more than 6 decades, the Cuban regime has been the leading sponsor of radical leftism and third worldism in the United States. The State Department is exposing the full history of Cuban espionage and subversion in our country. The American people deserve to know.
Wow. Yeah, it's like almost a carbon copy of our report there.
This is gaining traction all over the web space. So what does this tell me? Tells me 2 things.
On Newsmax, Armando.
What? No, bro. TTNW, bro. Come on.
Okay.
We bring you.
I'm saying get you on there so you can then, say this is where you can find me.
Yeah, right. Of course. All day long, I'll stick. Yeah, no worries.
Well, Cuban intelligence already has a eyeball on you every which way you turn.
All right.
So.
Yes. Stop. Yes.
Okay.
Making him blush.
I'm not gonna. Okay.
Oh man, you know that to be well. Never mind. I'm not going to comment on that. But yeah. What does this tell me? How many days are we away from the midterms? We're inside a 120-day window, maybe.
About 100 and some, yeah.
Okay. Cuba will cease to exist before the midterm election. That's my prediction. That's my prediction. Shit is going to get saucy here inside the country. I was giggling when I got this report that that first one that you dropped on there, not to toot my own horn, not self-edification, nothing like that, is because I know that my people were giving me the real deal. And I talked about this. I warned about it emphatically. Did I not? Did I not say this needs to go up the chain to somebody's ears ASAP? Was I wrong?
No.
Oh, and it did.
There you go. And it did. This is why this is starting to gain traction now. Second part. This is all these reports that are coming out now is preparation for them to get hit. It's going to happen. I'm telling you, it has to happen.
Hell yeah.
Because now we know how deep their tentacles are, their corruptions, they're affiliated with foreign entities, governments, whatever you want to call them, are inside our republic. It's a cancer and it needs to be dealt with badly. Because if
Just
not,
IRGC alone is enough, let alone all the others you've outlined.
think about everything that you're seeing lately on the news. Have you seen the latest Minnesota Democratic, or not Minnesota, sorry, Maine Democratic candidates, for, governing Maine? I mean, shit, you got Meatloaf, Meatloaf Webb is her name, right? She looks like Meatloaf. It's like, bats out of hell shit, right? Look at it.
Dude, it's bad.
And all she wants to do, there's Meatloaf. There you go.
But dude, what an eloquent speaker.
Looks just like Meatloaf. All it wants to do is use the bathroom.
Okay.
And what qualifications? What qualifications do you have to be a senator? I ran for office a bunch of times, never won. I write my own books. It's like, and dude, so I'm just like, I don't know how this can't be part of the plan, because you're telling me these are the two best people that friggin' Maine have to offer? That is just a horror show.
Right, but don't miss the point, brother. Okay, it is not the Democratic Party anymore. You got Democrats. You got Bill Maher talking against this movement. Okay, yes. You got a lot of other hardcore Democrats talking against this movement. Here's the thing. This is gaining popularity amongst the young people, especially in New York City. Look at some of the interviews out in the street. Okay, if they don't get this shit right or corrected, okay, I'm just going to say this. What if you have the midterms flip and go communist on their side? This needs to be dealt with. I'm telling you.
Let me ask you a question. I'll leave it at that. What if a good sizable domestic disturbance is needed to go to pull out of the drawer what already exists, state of emergency?
Uh-huh.
Oh, dude.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I would write that scenario for getting things going. I don't know about anybody else. I'm just saying.
Do you know how many national emergencies we're under right now?
We've been under a bunch of national emergencies ever since freaking, Reagan?
79, I think it is. Yeah, we touched on him yesterday. I think it gave him a couple different numbers. One was like 42 and the other one was like 52. But essentially, we've been under a national emergency for 50 years, essentially. I can show them to you.
It's the banking holiday of 1933, and you can look up a New York Times article from 1973 where a congressional committee was formed to see if that was true, and if it was, to what extent. As of 73, there were 560 lines added to U.S. code to stiffen and support executive branch capabilities and privileges. It's been over 1,200 to date. Now, the opposition, if HRC, aka Thundercunt, got into office, imagine all of that being used against you. It would have been. They tried using some of it against you in COVID. Right now, it's in the right hands. Let's make sure it stays that way.
All I'm saying, well, Space Shot, no, I appreciate you giving me the airtime, man, to bring all of this, because I'm telling you, man, I was busting at the seams back in March, man, when this shit was given to me, and to see it now come to fruition and from two respectable outlets, and there's going to be more, I'm telling you, and it will be spun. Trust me, it will. Okay. There it is. There it is. I'm telling you, it's guys, it's going to get creepy. Just going to leave it at that.
The weirder. Yeah, it's the more we go down the rabbit hole, it says the weirder it all becomes. But dude, no, I appreciate you coming on anytime you got information like that. And for the people that have been watching, yeah, Armando here, Mike and Ghost, they have been very much discussing a lot about Cuba over the last many months that we've been together here. So obviously, dude, it's great reporting. So I do appreciate you bringing that stuff on. Lots of interesting stuff. Mike or Ghost, anybody else?
I'm dropping a link in the private chat to back up what I just said. Now, it has not been rescinded in the interim since 73 to now, which is 53 years.
Let me see. Oh, National Archives. Here we go. New York Times.
Hey, just sorry to interrupt here, but
you can bring that article up and read it.
Blue-Eyed Bandit 17 says here that Renee's link isn't working.
Really? Let me click on it here. My link's working. Here, hold on. Let me make sure. I'll put it in the chat, guys. Make sure you guys have the correct one. So if the other ones are not working, guys, the one in my description boxes are definitely working, and I'm dropping it right here again for you. I'll make sure here it goes out to Rumble and YouTube, and then over to Pilled in 1 second. But yeah, that should be the one. I put a shortened one that I got actually off of the GoFundMe a couple weeks ago. So, because that other one that we had, the original one, was very long. But that one that's very nice and short does work. And I'm dropping it over to Pilled right here. So you guys should all have the actual correct link right there. And again, in my description box.
B-Star Boy says here it's working for him or her, or him. I'm sorry. And I don't see anybody else saying, okay, all right, cool.
Cool. What is it? I can't really get to this, Ghost, because it's like,
let me see if I can get to the article for you and get it to you, but you should be able. Let me see.
New York Times. What's the date on this one?
Okay, I've got a link to open it. It's this saying open with Galaxy. No, I'm not getting the damn New York Times.
Yeah, right.
I don't pay them for anything. Why would I pay for garbage? You know, I mean, but that article right there, that link, if you want to drop it in for people to look at, they can blow it up in their. There should be a way to access that link.
I'll get you another one here. It says the New York Times published an article detailing how a special Senate committee was investigating the vast array of extraordinary standby emergency powers held by the presidency. The goal of the committee was to compile a basic list of these powers to restore constitutional accountability. It says key presidential emergency powers highlighted in the article included the authority to dispatch American armed forces globally, the authority to regulate all civilian
without
activity.
Congressional approval.
Yeah, exactly. Regulate all civilian activity in any part of the country, and the authority to designate military areas. As the Senate inquiry was crucial, as the committee found hundreds of provisions of federal law that delegated sweeping emergency powers to the executive branch, some of which had been left continuously active for decades. Findings from this investigation ultimately convinced Congress to pass the National Emergencies Act of 1976, which established proper procedures and limits for presidential emergency declarations. But they never rescinded it. They just passed that. Do the math on that one. They were trying to shut down the power of the president, and then what? You go to the Patriot Act in 2001. Is that basically the counter to
And
that?
that basically was not only a counter, but an expansion.
Yep.
And it wasn't for our benefit.
No, certainly
ultimately.
Not. Certainly not.
And the country can thank the Trump administration for that not being used against you. If it's used, it'll be used for you. Now, those with TDS, try to get a grip, get a paper bag and breathe. Sorry, but that's the reality.
Yeah, no, it's bad. I mean, I just don't understand how some people, okay, obviously we see what's going on, but the Trump derangement syndrome folks out there, I don't get how they can't see what's been going on. I even sent this to my coworker, and he's a good enough guy otherwise, other than his politics, and I play video games with him here and there. But I sent him this.
Make asylums great again.
Yeah, exactly. And dude, they really do, especially in my area, boy. But she put out this video here. She says, I want everybody to understand the enormity of what has been done to us. From day one, the deep state has litigated its way into stopping the Trump administration at every turn. There are over 900 lawsuits and counting. Activist organizations, blue state attorney generals, uniparty allies flooding the courts on borders, deportations, executive orders, military policy, you name it. Says this is the straight color revolution tactics. When Democrats lose at the ballot box, they weaponize institutions, courts, NGOs, activists, judges, and use their billionaire funders to manufacture chaos, tie the elected president's hands with endless injunctions, and grind the people's mandate to a halt. They flood the system with lawsuits, get friendly judges to block policy after policy, bleed out momentum while the media cheers the, quote, resistance. Classic playbook for undermining the people and the government from within without firing a shot. So yeah, all these a-hole
What's
resistors.
the beauty of what you just read?
That it's being
5
exposed.
years ago, 10 years ago, you wouldn't have heard people speaking this way much. If they were marginalized because most didn't understand or pick up on what they were saying or have a frigging clue. Really? Now you're seeing many out there, and they're doing the math. They're looking back at other administrations and lawsuits. They're doing the math in every way possible. Mm-hmm. And it adds up to one thing. Never has there been a targeted administration like this one in history, period. Not even Nixon. Nixon is probably in heaven going, oh, somebody else gets more shit than I ever did.
And apparently he was friendly. President Trump was pretty friendly with Nixon, right? Is that what I understand?
Because, Nixon was a mentor of his in certain respects, from what I understand, and not a bad mentor to have. He wasn't all that the boomer generation made him out to be, nor what history made him out to be. He didn't play ball fully with the globalists. And the Rockefellers felt that they owned him. And he was, no, F you, nobody owns me, and I'm going to, Ricky Dick will find a way to fight back. Now, he didn't have the most endearing physical appearance. I get that. But we shouldn't be judging people on that. Judge him on what he did try to do. And he did get us out of Vietnam in any way that he could with the strength of the military-industrial establishment at that time. However, when all is said and done, he wasn't, the character that history makes him out to be. He was his own man. I think Frank Langella did a wonderful job of playing him because in certain ways he was old-fashioned and naive and felt that, they're going to play dirty, I'm going to play dirty. He didn't do anything different than any other president had, believe me. Even people like the sainted Eisenhower and others, they all had to play certain dirty games, still do. It's a reality. That's Machiavellian reality. Again, you can say, well, I don't like that and I don't want it to be that way. Well, I don't like it and want it to be that way either. But the first step to recognizing a problem is to recognize the problem. And it may be with most people's perceptions in saying, well, we should have all of the Epstein data. No, that's not wise for many reasons. Strategic, future, and your heads need to be expanded a little more before they're split wide open. And that goes for many subjects, not just Epstein. And I'm not saying that because people are stupid or childish or can't handle it. You can, but it's a matter of you have the aptitude, but have you been prepared? And by and large, no. The world public and the American public has not been adequately prepared. There's guys out there now who are former agency, but they're still working for the agency, and they're putting all this crap out there to say, to ease the pain. So whatever their ops are, I'm not gonna comment nor degrade nor offer any, negative, positive, or indifferent commentary on it. It is what it is, and I think it is trying to get people to better accept how things have been done, always have been done. But in modern times, everything has a magnitude of effect and acceptance to it that you wouldn't have had 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 years ago. Further you go back, the more traumatic it would have been for people to understand certain things. However, I think we're at that point now. Again, we're coming into a transitional period that we have yet to truly even feel the first rumblings of, even though intellectually and existentially and temporally, we all know AI is something that needs to be understood and properly dealt with. And before we can get to that, I think we need to get to the point to where we can say to the public, this is the way it was done. This is why. And yeah, a lot of people died because of it, or a lot of people suffered because of it. That's just the way it's always been. There is no other way around it other than better tactics and techniques. But the problem is everyone, no matter what their position or what their, let's say, their capacity, they're always fighting yesterday's concept of what's happening today. You need to reassess every day your approach to how things are done. And I think we're doing that as a country, and it's going completely unrecognized and even shat on by the usual suspects, organizations, mainstream media, pundits, blowhards, etc. So
the resistors.
Yeah, the resistors, the idiots.
La Resistance.
La piece de resistance. All right, guys. So I'm going to, in a second, because I always have to have something for funny. And, funny enough, like I mentioned, his politics aren't great, but my buddy who is a Trump derangement syndrome a victim, I'll say that because I do believe he's brainwashed. But he sent me a good funny one here. And I'm not going to let you have to listen to the whole 2 minutes. I'll let you listen to the very beginning and the very end of it. And I did send it to these guys. So if you guys didn't get a chance to listen to this one, it is... it's so damn funny. So 10 seconds in the beginning, 10 seconds at the end. Here we go.
Wanted to see the brain. So somebody invented the MRI.
She's loud.
Wanted to see bones. Invented the X-ray. Wanted to see babies in the womb. Ultrasound. Please explain to me why my doctor's got to stick his finger up my ass.
We could do MRIs and we could see babies in the womb and we can do all this and that. Explain to me why my doctor's got to stick his finger up my butt.
It's called a PSA, buddy. Get that done and you can skip that step for the time being.
Dude, I mean, that's pretty spot on though, too, right?
That's funny, though.
They say the funniest ones are usually, the truest ones as well,
Doctor, get your arm out.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Ghost, Mike, Armando, if you guys need to take a pee-pee break or get yourself a drink, time would be now. I'm going to do about a minute Rumble commercial here, so please hold.
Copy that.
Yep, absolutely. Yep. Take your time, guys. I'll be pulling up the next story if you guys are not back, but we'll be ready to go here. Bing, bang, and boom. So just 1 second, ladies and gentlemen here. All right, guys and gals out there, we hear a lot about crypto, But here's the part most people miss. Crypto was created so you could actually own and control your own money. And after the 2008 financial crisis, Bitcoin was designed as an alternative to banks. So instead of a bank holding your money, delaying transfers, or limiting access, you're the one in control. And if you ever had to wait for a transfer to clear, you felt that problem too. Now fast forward to today. Everybody's heard of crypto, but getting started still feels complicated. And that's exactly why I use Rumble Wallet. It takes all that complexity and makes it simple. Choose what you want: Bitcoin, dollar-backed stablecoins, or even digital gold backed by real gold. There's no complicated setup. It connects with MoonPay, so you can use your credit card, debit card, or bank and be up and running in minutes. And once you're set up, you can even support your favorite Rumble creators like me directly. So do this now. Scan the QR code and click the link in the description box and download Rumble Wallet. From there, you can set up your wallet, tap buy, and you're in the game. And in just a few minutes, you can go from hearing about crypto to actually owning some. Boom. All right, that was the booms there, ladies and gentlemen. Let me get these guys here. In case anybody was making any noises in the background.
No, all good. So I got an interesting text message here from what we're talking about here.
Cool.
So someone's in the audience with the last four of your phone number is 8541, area code 904. I did get your message about a communist plot unearthed 4 miles from your California home. So just letting you know, I did receive your message.
What? What was that?
Yeah, I'll send it to you. But yeah, somebody
Don't have space.
Yeah, somebody texted. Yeah, somebody texted me.
Okay.
I'll shoot it over. Stand by.
Okay, not to be shared though, obviously, with everybody, right? That's weird.
No, yeah. I'm just letting whoever is listening out in the audience and sent me a text message. I did get your message.
Message received. Message received. Okay. So guys, I got a bunch of different stuff we could get into. I got all sorts of stuff with technology. I actually did, because I know you guys talk about you guys enjoy the technology stuff too, and I thought that there was an interesting post that I did touch on yesterday. I don't know if did I actually bring it to you guys. I don't know if I put it in the chat for you guys maybe the other day or whatever, but this dude Ashton Forbes, I don't know if you saw his post where he came up talking about what was it, teleportation. I'm like, okay. And so I mean, I don't know if you guys want to make any comment on that. I'll pull up his post in a second, but it's just like he actually says, you know,
I'm not suicidal.
Yeah, something along those lines. Like, yeah. So that's weird. But then here's a response to it. Go ahead, Armando.
No, I was going to say I teleport every day in my day job called daydreaming.
Daydreaming.
Yeah,
sorry.
Very true.
Yeah, or calling Mike or me. No, I'm just kidding, bro.
So
God.
So here's what he said, and then there's also additional information. In case something does happen to me, there's only one thing the world needs to know. The United States has teleportation technology. It seems impossible, but it's true. And then he came back a little while after that and said, the answer is Hal Puthoff's space-time metric engineering, which he was nominated for a Nobel Prize. That was just pretty wild.
Yeah, so
Mike happens to know him.
I do, and he's a very great mentor. So the work was actually split between him and quite a few others, and there's another great mentor gentleman by the name of Dr. Eric Davis. So Dr. Davis and Hal did very good work with metric engineering, space-time metric engineering. There was a lot more books and information out there than just what Ashton is talking about there that he is not aware of. That's something that me, Ghost, know quite a bit about. I actually do sit on a task force for that. So what he was pertaining to for teleportation, that's if you want to get into the beginning concepts of that, you would have to go back to the early 1950s.
Wasn't that
And
photonic in
I'm
nature
sorry,
then? Wasn't that photonic in nature then?
some of it. And actually, at Armando's show at Truth Table News, Armando did a deep dive on Andrew Basiago. Yeah, Andrew Basiago.
Basiago, yeah.
Yeah. And with
CIA guy?
him, no, he's not CIA. He was DARPA. And a lot of that work Andrew worked on. And there was some cross parallel work with President Obama, or his former name, Barry Santero, if I'm getting it right.
Sotero, yeah.
Sotero, yeah. That name was mentioned in Truth Table in Armando's show as well. Yeah, so Hal Putoff is amazing, an amazing person. I've never had mentor or boss, someone like him, and he's one of the best people. His scientific achievement ever. Absolutely brilliant. I got nothing but positive to say about him, and I'm very grateful. I'm very, very grateful to even knowing him and having the privilege to be assigned by him earlier, about 10 years ago.
Interesting. Now, Mike, did you, and if it's very long, just say it's too long to bother to describe, but like, can you give us, or do you even know like what he won the Nobel Prize for, like in a nutshell? Or if the explanation is too long, we'll just move on.
For that, I don't know. I shouldn't say I don't know. I don't know all the factual information, so I don't want to give information on it. But I would assume it would have to be something. It would have to do with space vacuuming or space vacuum work, science and tech. A lot of the work was done with Stanford Research Institute in Northern California, and also down here in Los Angeles. And obviously with the CIA, and then other private ventures with SAIC. That's SAIC, which is another corporation very similar to SRI. So he's out there. He has quite a array of different groups. Some of the information on that Wikipedia page is wrong.
Yeah. I think anybody can edit it, right?
Yeah,
I could.
When it comes down to how he's if you ever had that favorite uncle or the favorite that's how you put it, your favorite uncle that's nice to everybody, that's willing to give you advice, put you in the right direction, that's him.
That's Hal.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Great guy.
I wonder what this dude is, and so I think, we're, without knowing anything, of course, because I'm as blind as the folks in the chat as far as, what's going to be coming out. But from what I'm seeing, like, I think we're about to be exposed to like newer technologies soon. I mean, that's just a guess for me. But I do feel like there's a lot more new tech or hidden tech that they've already had that's coming out that we were not aware of. And there's your guy, Barry Sotero.
Barry Sotero, okay. However you say it, okay.
Yeah, it was a dead guy in Connecticut.
Yeah, actually, yeah, that's what I had heard. Armando was saying on his show, his podcast. Yeah, there's a lot of tech out there. There's a lot of new tech coming in. And, it's, I wish I had the, honor to work on it, or privilege to work on it, as far as, putting it out company-wise. But a lot of these people, they've been working in this industry for 30 plus years. And, once they're able to take something off the shelf that they're not using anymore and put it to commercial use, kudos to them. And, so you're going to see a lot of advancement in future technology, whether that's in the computers, AI, maybe not even AI, maybe not AI at all. It could be with almost anything. There's a lot of yeah. So just so the audience, so I've worked on the UAP industry in the area for over 10 years, and I don't like getting out into the public and talking about a lot of it, because there's always a lot of negative Nancy's out there, and a lot of hearsay, this and that. And I could
There's
pull
no way
it,
to get into it without
yeah,
exposing too much.
well, it's not so much that. There's no way to get into it without someone having a fight, and
Or lack of fundamental understandings of certain
right.
things.
And the thing is like, I'm more than happy to talk to people about, UAPs, UFOs. I'm more than happy to, as long as it's not breaching classified information. I'm just not here to fight over information or whether it's real or not. Like I'm more than happy to. I just don't like getting into the whole Chris Mellon and Lou, and is it real or is it not? I'm not here to work on that type of stuff. Ghost knows who I work for. So does Armando, within a certain task force that I work for right now. And I'm just here because I work in the arena because it's a passion and I love working on it, and it's a privilege, and it's actually something that all of my life I've always wanted to work on. Something a lot greater than myself, and having the privilege to do it, it's a great honor. Now getting to there, it's a it's a long road. You have to go through a lot of security checks, polygraphs, just a ton of things you got to go through. If there's ever a show you want to talk on UAPs or UFOs, I'd be more than happy to. I just don't want people to get into the whole audience of arguing over any of the UFO UAP stuff, because it's not worth it. It's not worth it's not worth the time of arguing over it, and it's not good for someone's health.
Well, I can totally understand it.
A concise explanation of fundamentals that can be expressed that aren't classified, I think, would be a good way to do it. But but just to put it out there, and put it out there the way you would, and or the way I would, but I think the way you would, with what you're working with especially, and that would be the best way to do it. And just say, take it or leave it. This is for you, and I think that's one way to do it. And
that makes sense.
Just stay away from the arguments of culture or faith and all of that. What is, what isn't. What is not known is not known. What is theorized, and leave it at that, And I think you do a great job at it.
Yeah, and I think it comes down. Yeah, definitely do, Mike, too. And I think when it comes down to it, I could see the position that you're in, because things that right? It's like, I'm not going to come over here and talk about things that I know and have people that don't know telling me that I'm lying or I'm wrong about it. So I totally understand that part of it.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? So, yeah, we could definitely get into some of that stuff. Maybe, cater a show around it. And you guys still owe me some near-death experience talks too.
Oh yeah. And just so the audience knows, so in 2018, I had a near-death experience where I was working as a part-time fireman. While in the Army, I got a part-time job, got okayed by the boss in the Army, and there was a car fire on the freeway, and a drunk driver ran me over on the 101 freeway, the 101 North. And so when the car hit me, the car hit me. I was ejected, flew about 30 feet into a cement underpass wall. Damn. And then my fire helmet cracked in half. That's what actually saved me from having my head split open, my brains everywhere. And I had my left arm had a spiral fracture all the way down my entire left arm with permanent nerve damage. After I had a TBI, I had the fracture in my left arm. Also, fibia and tibias broken in both legs. It was quite extensive, but when I did have that near death experience, I honestly have to say that was the life-changing moment of my life, and that changed my life from that day on. To now. I am totally a different person than who I was. And I'm absolutely grateful for having having that near-death experience. I was clinically dead for 7 minutes. And obviously they kept working on resuscitation, and then with resuscitation I came back, and but I was gone for 7 minutes. I did experience quite a bit, and there are some things that I've forgotten, and it just it comes with the TBI, and that is when you have a TBI, you can have loss of long-term memory, loss of short-term memory, and I actually had a loss of a lot of long-term memory. And so I lost a lot of long-term memory of, like me growing up with my mom and dad, celebrating birthdays, different graduations. I don't remember, and that's solely from the traumatic brain injury. And
I don't have that excuse. I just forget now.
And so in 2019, my cousin Sarah, she was working at Caltech, and my aunt was working for DARPA, and they were working on programs for the Navy SEALs with a company called Halo Neuroscience, working on neuroplasticity for the human brain, and people with TBIs, other troubles, and human augmentation, neuro augmentation. And so my dad had moved me down back from where I was, and I attended these medical advancement treatments with my dad over the course of year and a half, and ultimately the treatments worked, and I'm absolutely grateful for Halo Neuroscience, grateful for DARPA, especially my family, working there, or else I wouldn't be where I am today. And
are you part robot now?
No.
But I hear that as well, Mike, a lot. And because a long time ago I saw this movie, I don't really remember the name of it. It may have been called like Afterlife or something like that, but it was a movie about people, and they were explaining their near-death experiences. And a lot of people that have gone through that have also said like, wow, that's the time where my life changed like crazy. And
it does a 180 on you. It really does. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I'm just kind of laying out the movie there because, and essentially what people say is they have some sort of an experience, right? And most times people say like, I want to stay here, which would be dead. And essentially, like they say, no, you got to go back. You got more to do or whatever. But I just found it was amazing to me because one of the stories, one of the women who was clinically dead, and they literally were doing brain surgery on her. So they froze like every part of her body, like to the point where her ears couldn't work, and they had sensors to test that her eyes, ears, nothing could work. But then when the surgery happened, she was telling the doctor afterwards, like, oh, which one of you spilt like blood on the wall? And you guys were talking about having to clean it up. Like she she basically mimicked everything that was said during her surgery. And they're like, wait, how the hell did that happen? Because when we put her into it, her brain was physically dead. So then you start thinking about like, well, is your soul, you're connected to your soul, obviously. And that's why I think a lot of these idiots that are trying to, build a computer to put their consciousness into a computer, I don't know. I don't know that that can be done.
Yeah, I don't
There's
think
no, there's no
I
way
don't,
it can happen.
I don't think it's going to work that way, honestly. So my experience when the car hit me, I was standing next to a California Highway Patrol officer, and however the universe aligned it, the drunk driver, the female driver, hit me. And I was only 12 to probably 18 inches away from the CHP officer, and she hit me. I got rocketed into the air, hit the cement pavement wall on the freeway. And, but before the car hit me, it's like you're playing a third person video game. And, um, and when I sat down with QMEs, your AMEs, qualified medical examiners, because for the fire department they did a payout for me for my retirement on it. At that time, now looking back at it, I should have fought a lot harder to get what the payout was. What I got is very minimal and very crappy. But it's okay because the experience led me to meeting my wife, and that's how I see it. But again, when right before the car hit me, it was like playing a video game, a third person video game. And right before that car hit me, it was like I was ejected out of my body, and I was being pulled away, I guess you could say, into the sky, but I could see the back of me. I could see the back of my fireman's outfit. I could see the CHP officer standing to the left of me. I could see the fire rig, the medic engine, to my right. And obviously the drunk driver, coming very close, to smashing into me. And so I guess that ejection out of my body and seeing all that, right after that was just boom, done, gone. And then I was just, I was taken into the only way I can explain it is space. It looked like a purple nebula, like a nebula, purplish looking like place, but it felt like space. And I still had all my senses wherever I was. I could hear, I could, like, you're talking to yourself. I could feel, I can make movements, I can make all my own decisions. And then I was just trying to figure out where I was. But the most important thing out of wherever I was, wherever I was taken, I was actually comfortable, and I didn't want to leave. It sounds weird, but it was the most comfortable time in my life.
The most perfect feeling you've ever felt, wasn't it? All the way around.
Right.
I call it absolute love. That's what I felt.
Yes. Extremely peaceful and
calm.
And Armando, you died too? You died too, Armando?
I got paddled back twice in July of 2020.
Oh, crap. I didn't know all three of you. Yeah. Jesus. Yeah. Oh, let me just do my little sign of the cross here. Spectacles, testicles, wallet, and watch. And that's my grandmother told me that.
God.
Yeah. Yeah, and so I'm floating there where to me I call it space, and floating in space, and it's the most blissful moment in life I've ever experienced. And I didn't want to go back. It was just nothing to go back to.
Were you surrounded by countless entities or spirits, however you categorize them?
No.
Okay,
No.
That's what I had.
No,
when I was begging to stay.
Yeah, no, and not for me. I was just I was in what you would call a nebula, a space nebula. It's purple, pink gaseous, something you would see
light sources, but not that tunnel that people. I didn't experience.
Yeah, there was tunnel. There was no tunnel. Not for me.
Any loved ones for any of you guys? Oh, sorry, Mike. Go ahead. Just continue on. I'll ask the questions later.
Yeah, sorry. So I did hear someone talking to me, and I equate that to being God. And saying that, you had more work to do, you got to go back. And I didn't put up a fight or stink about it or anything. Um, I was actually grateful, you know, to whoever, if that was God speaking to me, I was actually grateful for having that conversation with him wherever I was. Um, but coming back into my body, and there's a lot more to what I experienced. I'll just keep it short here. When I was in space or wherever I was, there was a lot more to it. But when I came back to my body, I was on the ground. Paramedics were working on me. They had IVs in me. They're just about to strap me into the gurney, and I popped awake, and I stood up, and and everyone, there was probably 20, 25 people, all highway patrolmen, sheriffs, other firemen, your Caltrans people just looking at me, like, how the hell he's alive? Like, how the hell did he just stand up in front of us? And the one thing that I'll remember the most is the paramedic that was pumping my chest and doing the paddles on my chest. She started crying in front of me, and later, 2 days later, she had met me at the firehouse, and she had told me that I've never seen someone get mangled as much as you. And mind you, I'm sitting in a wheelchair at the firehouse, to do a lot of medical paperwork and city paperwork. And then they brought me back to the hospital. And so the paramedic was there, and she had said that. But I remember at that time we're on the freeway, and I was standing up on the freeway, and I didn't feel like anything was broken. It was probably because I had all this adrenaline going through me. And she was just crying. And I was just like, hey, it's okay. I got hit. It's okay. I'm okay. And, needless to say, I didn't understand the full scope of what had happened. And so, 2 days later at the firehouse, when they brought me over from the hospital for a very quick trip, she was there, and she explained everything. And it was just a very profound experience. Very profound.
Wow, that's wild. Thank you for sharing, bro. Popped up like that and just adrenaline filled.
Yeah.
Oh my word.
Yeah.
And it's not even anywhere close to what I did, but like when I snapped my leg and they reset it, my mother said, when I woke back up, she goes, you remember any of that? I'm like, no, what? She goes, when the doctor set your leg, she goes, you sat up and went, what the F are you doing? And then popped back out. I'm like, no. But the funny thing is, during that, I do remember, like, I went under, and the only thing I remember was kind of like the sensation of doing like a crunch. That's the only thing I remember while I was out, and apparently that was when I yelled, "What the F are you doing?" but yeah, that's what I see a lot too. Like, sensation of leaving the body. I got it up on the screen here. Mind functioning more clearly, and to your point about seeing things more rapidly than usual, almost like time stood still.
Full and rapid. Everything is immediately taken in. Think of your senses on overdrive, and added to that, you're not using your mouth, but you're communicating.
Correct.
And
yeah,
it's the communication is so clear and pristine and unmistakable. I mean, what happened to me, I had just got over a really serious accident with a defense contractor, and heck, it took me 6 months before I could walk again. And I was on really heavy meds. And I did something stupid. Now, hadn't it not been for the fact that I had a house guest at the time, everyone else was gone. I was by myself. And had she not sensed something was wrong, and this petite little woman kicked down the bedroom door, I wouldn't be here right now, because I made a dumb mistake. I thought I was young and bulletproof, at that time. It was late 20s, near 30. And It was a dumb mistake, but I was balls to the wall at that time. I came out of more of a cowboy mentality, and it was, this isn't going to take me out. I'm not worried, and it was a dumb mistake. But there I was laid out, and she finds me next. All I remember is I remember rolling back and forth on a gurney that wasn't really secured in a ambulance and going, and then blacking out. And then next thing you know, I'm in an ER and I'm looking down at my body and I'm going, oh, I've done this before, but what the fuck? And, you know, I'm like, okay, tubes everywhere. They're not taking any chances. Working on me. And then all of a sudden I'm someplace else. And it's like Mike says, it was vast. It was like you were in the vastness of space. And there was a light source here and a light source there, but there was, with me, there was a silhouette of 1,000 uncountable numbers. I couldn't begin to count them. And it was as if they were all, but the feeling was of such perfection and just perfection of love, of just existence. And you are 1,000-fold clear. And I remember almost feeling like a child where they were saying, I said, you know, can I stay? And the answer was, no, you cannot stay. And I said, why not? I want to stay. And I'm not thinking about anybody on earth. I'm not thinking about anyone or anything that was my life, that I cherished, my child at the time, anyone. That I find a strange thing, but I also find it understandable all these years later. But it was and then it was, you have to go back, but I don't want to go back. I remember like it was yesterday. You can't forget these kind of things if you're allowed to even remember them. And it's, the response was, you have far too much work to do. And I went, okay, but I want to stay. And they're going like, no, like slapping me on the hand almost. But it was all such with complete loving kindness and a perfection that nothing on earth comes close to. Nothing. And I remember them being above my body and then a whoosh and I'm back in and then I was out unconscious. I remember being back in for a split second and I remember someone pressing hard on my abdomen. And then I remember waking up the next morning and I pulled the rectal probe out, like, get this out of me. I pulled the IVs out. I'm in ICU. I pulled all these other things out. And the nurse came running in and said, you can't do that. I said, yes, I can. And I just did. Now, where's my doctor? He was a friend of mine. We used to drink at the same bar in this Gulf Coast town. And I'm calling him. I said, yeah, you do that. And please get a portable toilet in here because they pumped me full of charcoal. And I had to go. I had to crap tar for the next 20 minutes while people are coming in and out. Why'd you do? Don't matter. Don't worry about why I did it. I did it. I came from that background. So I knew what I was doing and taking them out. And about 20 minutes later, he comes in and he says, you're not going to fuck up like that again. And I said, no, sign me out. He says, okay, I will. And that was it. And he said, I'll give you a call later. And he did. And we talked. And it wasn't anything. It was just a bad time. And Mike and Armando can attest to this, that when you get to a certain point and you're young, and this is why my heart breaks when I heard 21, 22 people a day were committing suicide. Mine was kind of accidental, but it's like you're not afraid of certain things that you should be because you've been through or seen some things you should normally not ever see. No human being should. And to you, it's not going to affect me, but it does. And it will bite you. And I just did something stupid that I learned a very huge lesson from. But that time there, yeah, does it change you? 180 degrees. It makes you rethink everything. It makes you see things in a way clearer, not because you chose to, but because you just do. And it makes you make internal choices knowing that this is a temporary human experience for what we term our souls. And all I know is wherever that was and God is, that's where I want to be when I'm done with this life, however many years it is, whether it's tomorrow or 50 years from now, God willing. But you don't, honest to God, you're there by mistake. These entities knew it. And I gauged them as human and other spirits. I don't know any other way to phrase it. But the love and the perfection and just the clarity, you felt like you were, quote unquote, home. Because I remember saying that, but I'm home and I want to stay. No, you can't. You must go back. You have too much work to do. And that was it. It was like about a 2-minute, please, can I? No, you can't. Now, go back and suffer through the rest of life. I can't. I'm just making a joke there, but it's not something I would say go and find out for yourself. No, don't do it. Don't seek to be the med student who experiences death and comes back like the film and the remake of that one film. I forget what they're called. Because if you don't come back, that's final. And looking back, and Mike, Armando, you tell me if you feel the same thing, but no matter what I've had to deal with, no matter how painful it's been, I wouldn't trade it for anything. And I know that every minute since the day I was born had a reason for being, no matter how horrible or how beautiful it was. And I'll take that to the very end.
Absolutely. Mr. Armando, I'm going to ask you in a second if there's anything that you wanted to share about this, but we got 1978 Shovelhead in the Rumble chat says, my accident was 2006. He says, woke up to my father looking over at me in the hospital 2 days later. My deceased grandfather told me it wasn't my time. I turned 56 next month. My mom said I'd never see 40. How many raise your hand if your mother told you that too?
Oh, yeah. Everybody's raising their hand.
Gen Xers got the same speech. Trust me.
Gen Xer. Let me see. Going through here. Mike, this one was for you. L82 Awake says, damn, Mike, I had some tears witnessing that. Glad you came back and appreciate you sharing all that you shared.
Yeah, absolutely. You're very welcome. And sharing this experience, it's a positive, and it only brings positive net worth and value to life.
Doesn't it like you grew in compassion and empathy exponentially to where you could put yourself in anyone's shoes at any time and go, yeah, I understand why they're feeling that way. Or, you know what I mean? It expanded all these things that were already within that needed expanding. I don't know. I just noticed that afterwards too, that I felt things on a depth that I can't even begin to quantify anymore. And it took other things that I've been engaged with and made it so much easier. I don't know how to explain it.
You know what I find is interesting too, is I'm thinking about like the science behind that, like what you were talking about, Mike, as far as the time slowing down, right? Like Like, so that was
Yeah.
before you were even hit, right? You said you've kind of felt
Yeah.
that and slowed down before that even. So I try to think about, like, how does your, the chemistry of your body work when you haven't been hit with the accident yet, but something in your brain is telling you, like, and slowing it down. Like, it's very
I don't
interesting to me.
I don't think it honestly has to do with the brain. I think it's your consciousness, and this is my belief. It's and I sent you guys a group text. So when I sat down with a qualified medical examiner, and then another examiner, Dr. Jeffrey Mishlove, and it it, uh, it has to do with consciousness, to where your consciousness, your soul, and your body is ripped out of your it's ripped out of your body. You're just ripped out. That's the best way I can say it, is I was ripped out of my body by something greater than myself or anything that I've ever known in my entire existence of life. And and it was all slow motion. Very slow. I could see every detail that there was. And if there was a painter, I could tell the painter to paint exactly everything I saw. And yeah, I think it. I don't necessarily. I do see that there is some neural brain chemistry things happening in there, but the part where you're ripped out of your own body, what Dr. Jeffrey Mishlove was explaining to me, that's the consciousness aspect part of life. And it actually made a lot of sense to me. So I guess that's just kind of the way I flow with it towards, the consciousness portion of life is, when I was ripped away from my body. Um, I'm very grateful for that, because I've been through a lot of stuff in the military. I've been shot, stabbed, blown up, whatever. But I really don't want to experience seeing a car hit me front on. And, by some luck of the draw, I was saved. And I was ripped out of my body. I had to go through all the rehabilitation. I went through the experience wherever I was. And the most important part of it all was it led me to my wife, Renee. And it led me to changing around my life, to being a better person. And, and being able to be a good husband, a good advocate. And now I'm taking care of my wife, to make sure, she doesn't go down that route that I went down. And, I will do everything and anything, to make sure that she doesn't go that route. So I think I think there's a lot more to consciousness, than there is. And when I did the interview with Dr. Mishlove, I think that really expanded more on, not just out of body experiences or near death experiences, but it expanded more upon what is, like, who are you? Who am I? There's a lot more. There's a lot more to it, because just after that, I was hired by an agency, and and I don't know how you put two and two together, but that definitely changed my life around. So I'm grateful. Definitely, I'm 100% grateful, 1,000% grateful.
Seems like almost everybody has I mean, I've not heard it, but if they do exist, maybe there are people that are like, oh, I had this horrible thing and it was awful, but I generally
maybe
hear
it's
the
what
same
their
thing.
soul needed,
Yeah, true.
You never know. I mean, think about it. Each of us is on our own path, whether we like to think of it or not, whether we are part of a congregation, we all think we believe the same. I promise you, if I say the word, picture a tree, every single individual in the world would picture a different tree. Some might come close, but they would not be exact. And I think consciousness, we're barely scratching the surface on, even with all the great work that's been done in the last 6 decades, especially on it. I think there's a few things that are human that stand in the way, and those I'm delineating at present. But pure consciousness and what it all entails, I think still we're just scratching the surface. And to me, if you look back in history, there were times when it was the primary focus of certain civilizations. The Egyptians, I would say, were one, and a few others. Even as you know, whatever you may think of them, doesn't matter. The cult of Mithras, etc. And these were, let's say, as naive as they were in a lot that they did, and manipulated as they were. I will say that they were at least trying to go behind that veil, and that veil leads to another veil and another veil and another veil. And when you think about it, there is always a higher apparatus at work, whether it's on this planet, in the material, or in the materium, as some people call it, in the material realm, or especially with consciousness, because none of this exists without us experiencing it and experiencing it together. And that it brings on a whole different dynamic. And then I think what it led me to do was to clear away all the garbage, to try to kill the ego as much as I possibly could, to try to do a lot of things that were internal and private and personal, and things that you couldn't really even talk about with other people at that time, and you can now to a better degree, but I think it's such an intensely personal, individual experience, yet there are, because we are of a certain makeup, and I think consciousness is a constant throughout the universe, as is the properties of space and speed of light, for example. I think is a constant, and no matter what form a life form comes in, all we have to do is look around on this planet. Look at birds that people have as pets and the remarkable things they do. Cats, dogs, many squirrels, and many other animals. These are creatures, as you know, we share 97% DNA with, if you want to be technical, but we couldn't be any more different. Yet we interact. There's a light in their little eyes that you see, and they know. They don't question it. They're not human. They're not constantly bouncing a ball back and forth in their heads. I think sometimes they do, and sometimes it is just like our dog thinking of a ball. That's all she thinks about, is chasing a ball. But, you know, that's why I think when we eventually do, let's say, expose more of off-Earth connections, I think in the future it'll be more, if we proceed and study consciousness properly, and it has to be with the correct intent, or results will be difficult or nebulous. When done with the right intent, I think then we're looking at the race as a whole, the planet lifting as a whole, no matter how much of a quote unquote shithole an area is. The people all have the same potential, and they all have that same light within them. And I think we're going to get to that point eventually. But that's, again, a whole nother subject. But it does tie into everything, because what ties all of this together is your awareness of what we're doing right here, right now, your awareness that you are aware, your awareness that you are conscious. And people need to work more with their mastery of intention and will, and they'll find they can order their lives better and also make things within their lives happen that seem to happen out of nowhere. This is not new age or magical stuff. All of this is even reflected in the Bible in many places. And it's been for an earthly experience, it's been kept from too many people for too long. And I think it's time that it rises above the surface and we all pay attention to that aspect more than anything else.
Absolutely.
I'll just leave it there.
Consciousness is a big deal. Now, Mr. Armando, you had mentioned paddled back a couple of times. I'm guessing that means the clear chink.
Yeah.
Any
so
any fun stuff you can tell us?
Yeah, just mine is mine was life-changing basically. So July of 2020, we went to Panama City Beach for the July 4th fireworks celebration and all that stuff. It was a big group of us. And I started feeling kind of exhausted, really, after the fireworks and stuff. And we were sitting on the beach and I'm like, I'm going to go up to the room where it's cooler and stuff like that, because it was hot. And I went back up to the condo that we had rented. I walked in, air conditioner was on, walked in, got some water, started feeling kind of nauseous. And then I came down with a massive attack of like the chills, right? And I'm like freezing to death. I went into bed and I'm shivering in bed and stuff like that. So everybody started trickling back to the room. A lot of them were, feeling kind of buggish, but not massively. So we decided to leave, right? Because I was like bad. I just I don't know what the hell it was, but it was just bad. And I decided to drive. So we're coming back from Florida back here to my home. And at one point in time, I dozed off a couple of times in the car while I was driving. And the wife says, "Hey, are you okay?" And I just pulled over and I said, "You need to drive." I said, "I can't drive anymore. I can't stay awake." And I slept like the whole way here. And when I got here, it was just even worse. It was just worse, man. I could barely walk. So I went over to ER. And of course, this was during the pandemic. And I went to Shepherd's and I got the nose swipe and all that stuff. And they came back, "Yep, you got COVID." Okay, great. So they put me in ICU. I stayed in ICU for 29 days. I was on 9 liters of oxygen to keep me going. I couldn't take 3 steps without passing out. I caught massive pneumonia. Massive pneumonia. My left lung had a black area of like about the size of a softball. Everything else was milky white. My right lung was completely white.
Oof.
So at one point, all I felt was like this beeping sound in my ear, and it was like that. And that was it. I felt my body coming out of my body, if that makes any sense. And I'm standing there next to my bedside looking at myself. And again, overwhelming peace, love, if you will. My senses were like hyper sharp, if that makes any sense. Like I was in tune to everything around me. And then I look over at the window blinds and there was some sunlight coming through. And there was like this white purplish, I'm not going to say it was a light. I'm going to say more it was like an aura. And I distinctively remember seeing a sword. It wasn't on fire, but it was a sword that had like fumes coming out of it. And then what looked like wings. But I couldn't see any facial figures. It was just a white image. And then I hear, "I'm here to give you a message." And that message is, "I was told to tell you that it's not your time. You have more work to do." And I'm like, okay, so what is it? And not your time. I remember blanking out. And then I woke up. And I'm like looking at all these people standing around me and shit like that. My chest hurts like hell because they hit me with the fucking paddles. And I was like, what the hell? And says, "Oh, welcome back." And I'm like, what? And I just dozed off. And then the same thing happened again. Don't remember what day, don't remember when, if it was a couple of hours later, don't remember if it was minutes. I have no idea. All I know is there I am looking at myself again, but this time nobody appeared. I couldn't see any images. I couldn't see shit. And the same message again. It's not your time. You have more work to do. Went back in. Now, mind you, at that point in my time, and these guys here know it because we've talked about it, I had massive trust issues. Massive. And I still kind of like today. Massive trust issues, man. I've been through a lot growing up, my childhood, my background, the military, all that shit, deployments. And I always had questions, really angry. Why are all these people dying? Why am I taking my brothers out of rubble? That was when the embassy got bombed. Why? I just didn't get it. I didn't understand. So fast forward, I get released after 29 days. I come home and I had to go through physical therapy. I had to regain my motor skills. I lost a massive amount of weight. This is after I had a plasma transfusion because back then there was no vaccine, thank God. There was nothing. It was oxygen or a ventilator. And I denied the ventilator. I said, no, you're not putting me on that shit because I know better. Not doing it. So I came home and I'm sitting in my lazy boy chair. Nobody's home, right? Everybody's going back to work and stuff like that. So I'm sitting there watching TV and I dozed off. And I took this off for a moment because it has something to do with it, which is my warrior bracelet. And on the inside, I engraved Psalm 23:4. Okay, for a reason. And I was an on the fence believer, but that day I fell asleep again, and I was told you need to keep doing what you're doing, but I need to be included. And I gave my life to Christ. Like, amen. Seriously. Like, seriously. And ever since then, going what I went through, and Ghost will tell you, Mike will tell you too. I mean, as long as I've known Ghost, I've known Ghost longer than Mike, Doc, I should say. But I look at life completely through a complete set of lenses ever since that day. Complete. Like, I just see things differently. I do believe in consciousness. I do believe that we are here for a purpose. I believe all of us have a mission to complete. And when it's your time to go and you go, mission is accomplished. It's just the way I see it. But we all have something to contribute. But there's a lot more to it, but I don't want to talk about it because it just, I don't.
No, I appreciate it.
There's, I used to say all the time that, the Grim Reaper is a good friend of mine. I don't know why the hell I'm still here, but he visits a lot. I'll leave it at that.
Well, I think I can answer that for you, and I think I'm just guessing that I think some people in the chat will probably already put the comment in, and I have not even looked. But I would claim that all three of you guys are alive because there is more work to be done, and I think for what you guys are doing right now, obviously Mike with Renee as well, taking care of her as well. But you guys have a lot of information that can be helped to disseminate to folks and help folks. So, and I would say probably a lot more beyond that as well. But thank you all guys for sharing that. It's very illuminating. And, a lot of people that we hear go through those near-death experiences, it's like a similar thing, right? And it's like, the ones I think are the most interesting is the ones when people die and they come back and they're like, all of a sudden they can speak Mandarin Chinese, or they're like a mathematician. Any of you guys catch any of those? It's like, damn it.
The piano, he had a TBI. He now does concerts all over the world. One piano player.
He said he saw the notes, right?
Yeah, he sees the notes in black and white, acquired savant syndrome or something like that. I mean, I think with me, it led to more of a sense of duty that giving is better than receiving. And it truly is. I think a lot of people need to take that leap of faith in their lives and just do it. Yes, it costs sometimes. Yes, it's painful. But on the other end of it, you feel like you've actually done something. If you just give 50.5% of the time, the other 49.5 is yours. Trust me, that's like a 95% conversion in your life. That little bit. But I think sometimes it goes a lot further than that. And it was just a clarity and I was not one where any situation rattled me. And I know these guys are the same way. It didn't matter what happened around or right in my vicinity. It was the more pressure, the calmer. Now it's not even a second thought, and it never was then, but now it's even more of a natural thing to say, don't worry, you're going to live through this. It's going to be all right. And I'll help you every way I can. And I just found that just became a natural part of life afterwards that I didn't even question and would never question anything. I mean, if you really think of how big God is, if in that moment that happens to you, you're touched. And I believe it happens to people in their conscious waking lives in many different ways. And some share it, some don't. Again, because all of this is so deeply personal. And I would say for my life path, maybe that was a necessity that happened. And I accept that fully without question, because it was after then, it was a little bit, say 2 or 3 years after then, I stopped and I looked back and I said, every second of my life had a purpose. Whether it seemed so or not, whether it felt like it or not, whether it felt like the lousiest place to be or the lousiest thing to be doing or having happened to you, didn't matter. It was a profound sense of gratefulness for everything that I say to myself naturally every morning that I wake up. And I don't know what else to add to it other than that.
Oh, that's totally fine. That's totally fine, bro.
Hey, I got a couple more drops whenever you're ready, really quick.
Oh, sure. Did you want me to play a little of this? Because I thought this was.
It's been go for it. That was actually kind of funny.
Yeah, this has been playing. This has been playing in the background for the last 40 minutes or so. But let's see here. Dr. Pete Hegseth, the Department of War, going against the Senator Peters.
When will you show leadership?
We have leadership.
When will you show
leadership? Why don't you
leadership?
show some leadership and stand up to your fellow Democrats who won't fund the troops, who stand and play partisan politics while you don't give us the money? You want to stand up here and talk about the troops? You won't show any political courage to actually fund our department because you have Trump derangement syndrome and can't actually commit to anything meaningful. So I put this on you, Senator.
Secretary Hegseth, you have trillions. You have over $1 trillion. You're asking for $1.5 trillion. It's not a question of money. It's a question of leadership and understanding what it takes to actually win.
Political cowardice of Democrats who won't fund the troops.
He was shaking. Watch, I'll mute this and let this play again. This dude was literally shaking after he was done talking. Like you see his face going back and forth. It's just ridiculous. And again, it's all posturing. It is partisan posturing, right? It's like, oh, we can't do anything that's good for President Trump. And, my ex-coworker, oh, he's president now. Why is he complaining? I'm like, that's the problem is you guys don't get what a big deal all the stuff that they did was. Well, he's just whining about the election. He won it. He's the president now. And I'm like, but if it was done to Obama, as much as I don't like the guy, or Biden say, I would be reporting the same thing because they're stomping all over the office of the presidency and it's highly illegal. And the other thing is these idiots just can't seem to, oh, he's going after his political rivals. Do you guys forget what happened for the last 8 years? It's is laughable to me. It really is at this point.
To them, that doesn't matter. They have an agenda.
Yeah, that's it. And that
that's
agenda is...
The problem is the collective American and worldwide, it's not just American, the collective human memory doesn't go beyond 3 years for details, or even or memory of events, unless it's brought up by the oddball. Now think about that. 3 years. And no, go ahead, bro.
You see how good of a life these senators that argue back with funding our military, you see how good of a life they have. You know, they're making their salary on top of they're making millions of dollars from corporations or stocks or whatever else they're making on. And here they are. You know, they have a better life than 2 million of us combined together.
And Crenshaw complaining the other day. Did you hear that one?
No, but they're
Crenshaw talking about making VA benefits and ratings harder. Look, you lost an eye. All right, yeah, you gave up an eye. I get it. Other people have given up a lot more, and he's got a full-time job that when he leaves, he gets $187,000 a year for the rest of his life and medical, on top of at least a 33% VA disability. So he's working a full-time job, thriving, and he's sitting there bitching while sitting in a car. I wanted to punch that little fag square in the face so hard that Xi Jinping felt it, because that's who he was. That sounded like who he's working for in saying what he was saying about cutting ratings and making it more difficult for ratings. And now I don't know how bad that situation is or how good it is at this point, but the fact that he was railing against it, why don't you start railing to fix it, not take away? But his onus was to pull back, and I think that's some kind of bill he's supporting right now. But this tool who worked for the Clinton Foundation and others is out there saying this, calling himself, conservative, etc. It's horrible. It's horrible. And then a dink like this guy wants to argue with Hegseth on what we're doing. The opposition is going to go to no end because it is global. These are just the little dangling puppets you see on the strings, and someone like Hegseth is giving him what for, telling him the truth. And I fear we're going to see this kind of fight now with veterans benefits, and that's the last place anybody needs to be taken away. Our veterans do not get, and as one I can tell you, we're not treated like they are in Norway or Denmark or a number of other countries. Not to say they're better, but they do treat their wounded and let's say service-connected physical disabilities and mental disabilities a hell of a lot better than we do here. But again, they pay a lot higher tax, but that's not even a justification for it. I think we can do better here if we weren't giving billions away to Somali scamsters and all of these Medicare and Medicaid frauds, with all that stuff going on.
It'll take a little bit.
We got to clean, yeah. And instead of railing against that, and what the president is actually trying to do is get you out from under a rigged voting system that you have been under for decades. That's why it's so screwed up. That's why they don't care what you say. That's why they don't take each other to task when there's at least 5 entries in U.S. code that say they should at every turn. They ignore them. These same wonks like this guy yelling, trying to argue with Hegseth, none of them act upon their oath of office correctly. None of them. And I'm not giving anyone a pass. I'll give maybe a dozen out of both houses a pass. But the rest of them, no. And Crenshaw is going to do just enough, and if he doesn't run again after this term, He gets his 187,000 a year for the rest of his life, and medical, and his VA disability. And he's talking the way he was talking in that car the other day. My old ass would whoop his ass to the ground if I saw him right in front of me, and I would not give a damn about the repercussions.
I would take his trident away and shove it up his ass, because he's no SEAL in my book.
No, he's a squid, not a SEAL.
Hey, I'm a squid. Careful there.
I don't mean you. You know that. I singled one guy out, Navy guy.
Yeah, it's okay.
Hit you as more of a Navy guy, huh? Interesting post you dropped here, Mr. Armando. It says fun
Wait till you see
trivia.
the second one.
Weather Underground, Communism and Black Lives Matter. 1984, Susan Rosenberg. We discussed her a little bit earlier, guys. A member of the Weather Underground and M19CO was sentenced to 58 years in federal prison for domestic terrorism. 2001, Bill Clinton pardoned her right before he left office. After her release, she went on to become the vice chair for 1,000 Currents. 1,000 Currents was the NGO that handled administrative and fundraising operations for Black Lives Matter. So
Which
communism.
I dropped them as one of the threats that infiltrated by Cuban intelligence. 1,000 Currents. They're all tied, I'm telling you. All of them are, going that far back.
Wow. Yeah, absolutely.
They're all tied together.
I do not doubt this, and I'm
If foreign agencies had to maintain a foothold in this hemisphere with a human intelligence network running an old-fashioned delayed communications, delayed tactics, delayed gatherings, don't you think they're going to keep that in one piece? And they sure as hell did.
Mm-hmm.
They would.
And you know, when Armando brought a lot of this to the forefront, and brilliantly, it was stuff that I was aware of, not to the extent and the details that he brought into it current day, because it simply wasn't looking at that. But he's done a brilliant job with it and continues to do so. And yeah, this is going to have more and more to do with what comes out in the future. How far? Politically speaking, if things go right with Cuba, and let's say there's a brighter tomorrow for Cuba, whatever they want to leave in the dustbin, I would say leave in the dustbin so that we can go from on this day forward and make it better. That's
But
just
see,
my 2 cents.
Back in March, you would think that I would have made a comment, okay, being Cuban, whatever, but I'm American. Okay, we left that behind. It's over, right? Became a naturalized citizen after 8 frickin' years of learning a new language, being homeschooled, right? We assimilated and became Americans, right? Not like some of these douchebags that are coming in here and they bring their country with them and they could piss all over America. Screw them, right? And I'm just saying it here publicly, all right? What was my biggest concern that I had in March? It wasn't Cuba for that, because, you know, I got family there and stuff like that. Yeah, great, fantastic. But I was advocating for statehood. I still am. But what was my biggest concern that I dropped with you and Doc? America, the threat violence, right? The violence in all those cities. And that was my biggest concern. So much so that I said, please run this to the top. Let them know what I see and what I've been told. That manifested into what you guys and what Space Shot shared with you guys here, those links. And there's one of it, you know, all these that are now coming out. So it is a problem that needs to be addressed and dealt with. I'm just saying, I don't want any damn violence here. I don't want it, but I'm sorry. It's going to happen. Look at this communist movement that I thought I would never, ever see in America. And now it's happening here to this extent. Guys, this is a fucking movie I've already seen and lived. You do not want this. You don't want it. It has to be dealt with. And the only way to deal with it, I'm sorry to say this, got to cut the head off the snake. There is no other option. It has to be done. It has to be. But that's not up for me to decide. That's for other people to do so. And on that note, that second link and I'll be done. That I dropped there for you, Space Shot.
Ooh, yeah. Actually, Armando, before I pop that one up on the screen, because this will kind of be a preemptor to this one, because I wanted to ask you guys. You're the ordnance guy, right?
Yeah.
What the hell does this, brother?
Bomb hitting the right target.
No, but but
that's exactly what that is.
But what kind of a bomb does that?
Those lots of those flashing ones, from what I can tell, based on my time when I was in, those look like cluster bombs. Me.
Yeah.
Okay. It's atmosphere, boom, and then the clusters. That one could be a bunker buster, but the next clip that I put in there for you should be that one right there. Now, read that carefully.
U.S. Homeland Security News alert: American B-1 nuclear bombers are now heading for Iran for the first time since the 40-day war to destroy Iranian underground missile bases. Ooh, that's a big boy.
if in fact this is true and they are carrying, I guarantee you they're carrying B-61s, okay, to finish the job, in my opinion. Doc, would you agree?
Yeah, I would.
You guys know what B-61s are?
It's about a 460 kiloton yield tactical.
It's a tactical nuke.
Gravity bomb unit, yeah.
Yeah, it's a tactical nuke. And what did I mention on the last stream that we did? Or actually, I didn't mention it, but it was a conversation I had with Doc. I said, you want to finish the job? And I think they're going to finish it by, let's just say, maybe this weekend or maybe next week because of timing. What did I say? You need to use B-61s to finish the job.
Absolutely.
Just saying.
Booms. Well, we'll see what happens in the next couple of days, guys. But I'm going to wind down the show here, thank a couple of folks, and then do some final thoughts for the crew out here. So I just got to go over and thank a couple folks over here on Pilled, where I got my brother Matrix Codebreaker start us off with a can, says boom time, let's go. Appreciate that, brother. And then Sean Joe over there on Pilled dropped 2 cookies in a row. No message on there, but thank you, my man. P-Quest also dropped a cookie. No message on there, but thank you, P-Quest. Mr. Sean Joe came in with another cookie. No message on there, but thank you, sir. Jucani dropped some shades and says, God bless. God bless you as well. And KC with 2 E's gifted the shades. No message on there, but thank you. And then Lizzie B with the cookie. No message on there, but thank you. And no thanks, Joe. Always a very nice message. Dropped a cookie. Says, hey, brother Space Shot, good to hear you and the boys, and great to be listening in. Thanks for your continued stellar hard work. God bless and be safe. So thank you for that there. No thanks, Joe, and for all of you guys over there on Pilled. And I think I did catch up to everybody over there. Thank you, my brother Red Pill, for rating us earlier over there. And let's see, Mr. Ghost, sir, would you like to go first and your parting words to our wonderful world patriots out here?
Well, again, thank you for a wonderful audience. And I think we are, people should pay attention to I don't think that there's going to be an ultimate use of it when you hear Putin and Karnagov and others making reference to nuclear weapons and their issue in Ukraine, and the situation with the European Union and Russia in particular, and then us making these, let's say, overtures. Xi asking Putin, please don't go to that option. He did ask him that, and in a way that was that was led to believe that it would affect their relations if they did. So I think a lot of this blustering is kind of foolish, because if we set the precedent of saying, well, most people have a Hiroshima and Nagasaki version of a bomb in their head. No, we have warheads that carry, and the Russians have them, that carry anywhere from 8 to 12, sometimes more, 300 to 800 kiloton yields. think of Hiroshima, 70,000 dead to 100,000 instantly. That was a 20 kiloton, 20,000 ton equivalent to TNT. I think it would set a very bad precedent for the future. It's not a good way to handle things because then non-nuclear nations are going to want to banter for them. And I think this is all factored in. They've thought of all this stuff anyway. I'm just saying, if I were anyone out there, I would be paying attention to that issue because you never know when that or something more exotic can happen in that world. And I would just leave it with that. Don't discount that issue. Pay attention to it, but don't feed it any more negative or fear. There's no need to. But just keep an eye on that particular issue, especially because I think it's going to play out in a possible interesting way. And I'm not saying they won't be used. I'm saying I give it a 30% probability someone's going to pop one or two off somewhere. And how that's positioned, how it's dealt with, well, we're just going to have to see if that's the case. But that's just my probability. That's based on no one else's or nothing else. And thanks again for another fun time. I didn't think I would make it all the way through, but I got positioned in chair well, all good.
I appreciate it, brother.
Please, everyone. I'm fine. Everything getting cleared now, all gone away, but Renee isn't. So I would ask again, everybody, do $1 or whatever you can for Renee. I have a feeling it's coming close, and it's going to be the right thing and go the right way. And God bless everyone.
Absolutely. Yes, we were definitely going to make sure Renee gets through this for sure. Abso-freaking-lutely. Mr. Mike, sir, any parting words for the crew out here, my brother?
Yeah, for the crew out there, thank you for everyone, listening, and, fellow service members, firefighters, law enforcement, just all the other folks out there that are here on the crew here. With the team, I just want to say thank you. Again, I just want to say genuinely, from the bottom of my heart and Renee's heart, my wife, we're fighting every day as Renee's condition gets worse, and it's, I wish I was a millionaire. I wish I was a billionaire. I wish I, had the money to fight big pharma and the insurance companies, and that's why we're doing the GoFundMe fundraiser for Renee, and it's to give Renee a life extension beyond her life, what she has right now with her bad heart, and a dot like what Ghost was saying, what Space Shot was saying, if you can give $1, $5 or more, we're absolutely grateful. And we're absolutely grateful for all the prayers and all the prayers that you guys give. It means so much. And being able to share her GoFundMe, it means so much as well. I look back in life and, everything that I've done until, today. And, I firmly believe that, God let Renee and I meet and for us to get through this, and knowing that there is a large volume of people in the audience. I don't think of it as an audience. I think of it as friends and family out in here in the audience. I don't want to call you guys audience. It's more friends and family. Absolutely. And I just want to say thank you to everyone out there that's helping, keeping Renee alive. And that goes towards her medication. That it's very costly. It goes towards her hospital visits. And it's aiming we're aiming, for it to, to go towards her heart transplant. Sorry, that's a little hard for me to say because it's when I say heart transplant for my wife, it just kind of hits pretty hard. Because I always live in, that fear of if she were to have rejection of the heart, and I don't want her to have a heart rejection. So it just hits wrong. So I do apologize if it's a little sentimental in there, but I do want to say thank you to everyone out there, and absolutely grateful to be on here, and I'm absolutely an open book. I'm actually looking to take time away from the military here, and I'm going to focus more on my wife and my family that I have here, and get through this procedure with my wife when there is a heart recipient that's ready for Renee. I think that's more important than what I'm doing right now, and I appreciate everything that everyone has done from the family and friends out in the ether here that are listening. And I appreciate it very much. And she appreciates it very much. So thank you guys. Thank you to the table here. And I have a lot more stuff that I've worked on. And if you guys want to, talk about it or hear about it, I'm going to make myself more available since I'm taking time off. And, thank you. God bless. And from Renee and I, thank you and we love you.
I appreciate it, brother. And yeah, we'll definitely be getting some of that information out to the folks. And what Mike was getting at too is that at the end of the day, by next week, we will have roughly 35,000 views on this video. So if, like I said before, if you could even give just $1, say, hey, I only have $1 to give, that's absolutely acceptable, because power in numbers, just like prayers, ladies and gentlemen. So that's how I look at that one. So thank you guys for all who have already given and prayed for Renee as well. Mr. Armando, last but certainly not least, very interesting information, and I appreciate the rundown on Cuba. And you and the guys here have been telling us about Cuba for quite some time, and little old me didn't know how very, very important Cuba was. But the floor is yours for your final thoughts, sir.
Yep. Thank you again, Space Shot, for hosting us. It's always an honor and a privilege to be here, but I just wanted to give a big shout out to the folks in the audience here in the live chat. First and foremost, your moderators, your mods are amazing. They do a great job. I've been really eyeballing that, and everybody else for that matter here, the love and the support that you give us here is truly and greatly appreciated. God bless you all. And I mean that severely. Okay, you really do. You guys have an amazing, like Mike said earlier, friends and family here in the live chat. And wow, it's really good for me. And I'm sure Doc and also Ghost to come on and be able to support Space Shot, here with his channel. I will be sharing this, by the way, over on my platform. This Thursday, I'm going to be covering part 2, which will be the final segment of Restoration of the Republic, the final phase. It'll be part 2. I'm probably going to cover a lot of what we covered here, but just know that that's coming, and then we'll think about something else later. So with that, thank you guys, especially here in the audience. Love you guys to pieces. Again, Space Shot, awesome work as usual, and prayers for Mike and Renee. And again, we're working diligently behind the scenes to try to come up with ways of generating funds, to help these folks out. And Ghost, my brother, also as well. I'm glad that you're back to normal. Physically, mentally, I don't know about that, but
that's always out. I can't help
that's
that.
always out. And now he's got a love fest with his new radio. But thank you, appreciate you guys.
No, I appreciate it, guys, and yeah, that's Truth Table World News, guys. Run over and give them a follow there, especially if you're on Rumble right now. and I know the mods have been doing a good job of dropping the links for that and for Renee's GoFundMe as well. So for Mike, Ghost, and Armando and myself, thank you guys all for hanging out with us. I got a day off tomorrow, so I'm going to go hit some golf balls and do some jogging in my sweatsuit.
What about your, have you hit your 300 push-ups yet and sit-ups? Come on, bro.
I've not. I'm only halfway there today. I am now
you'll
halfway.
get there. You got it.
The day I
I'm
still
on
got
that
an hour and a
regiment
half.
myself. Yeah.
Hey, little bits by little bits. You know, I'm not sitting there doing 300 in a row, but hey, 20, take a break. I do 20 push-ups and then 20 sit-ups. And for whatever weird reason, I've been doing whatever number plus one, like 101 or 201, whatever, plus one. I don't know, maybe it's a mental thing. But awesome show, guys. I'm glad. And thank you guys all for sharing, too, your near-death experiences. That was very, very cool part of it as well. And great wrap-up on Cuba, guys. So as I said, if anybody knows anybody that's live for me to raid on Rumble or Pill, just drop it in the chat, and I will raid over to them. But for Ghost, Doc, Mike, Armando, and myself, we do appreciate each and every one of you wonderful world patriots out there for tuning in. And I can't forget to thank the mods like Mr. Armando did. Always such a great job and so helpful. So until that next video, thumbs up, like, and subscribe. Peace.
Something special is happening in here. That's right, it's brackets and jackets, bringing it back for brackets and jackets. Special Epstein Island edition. That's right, folks, Epstein, Jeffrey Epstein, the man with the island, which is suspiciously close to Haiti. That's right. You see, this man, Jeffrey Epstein, is funding lots of people. He's funding lots of people on the street to make sure his shit doesn't get out. That's right. They want the record sealed. And they're paying a lot of people. Epstein's paying a lot of people. Oh, boy. For one, he's got a whole Mossad media matrix in America. And I would bet you anything that Alex Jones is one of them. Prove me wrong. That's right, Cappy's in the portal. Cappy's in the portal. Cappy's in the building with songs about Epstein. It's Breakfast Jacket's Epstein edition. Guys, I had some epiphanies today. I had some real big epiphanies about some guys. A big network of guys and spies and lies and liars. All right, think about this for a minute, okay? The guy in Portland, the scientist that just got busted for producing CP, that guy is 1 degree of separation away from Epstein. Epstein, the investor that lives in West Palm Beach, Florida. I know a guy who lives in West Palm Beach, Florida as well. Investor as well. Also involved as well. And all is not well with these guys. The Florida boys, the Glow boys, the Scott Israels of the world. You see, Epstein is Hillary Clinton. And Epstein is Haiti. And Epstein is a big network of media assets. By the way, did you know that Steve Bannon was going to that guy for money? Also, Epstein is Epstein Oprah. Epstein is Chris Tucker. You remember him. Epstein is also Kevin Spacey. Epstein is also Prince Andrew. Epstein is also... Who else is Epstein? Who else is Epstein? Tell me. You guys know? Who else is Epstein? Is Epstein Big Pharma? Is Epstein Bryan Singer? Is Epstein Naomi Campbell? Yep, all of the above. All of the above. Who is Epstein? Epstein is the keystone of a whole motherfucking matrix. And once you pull it out, it all falls down. Dersh was there too. That's right, we're dropping red pills every day. Dropping red pills in the best kind of way. This is brackets and jackets for the denizens